Good evening and welcome to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles Banin, and the one and only, the legendary. You're not quite such a legend like Cas, but you're sort of getting there.
Oh, I'm nowhere near Cas, but I'm about a foot to go till I'm where Casp is.
I thought you were a bit taller than Cas, actually.
No, Casp is an enormous giant of a man. He just looks like a tiny, tiny person on television.
Oh, okay. Right, without further ado, let's talk about what we've got on the show for you tonight. Well, tonight we're going to be showing you a form of poker called Texas Hold'em. Now, if you're new to the show, let me tell you a quick insight, give you a quick insight into Texas Hold'em and what it is. Basically, you get 2 down cards. Each player gets 2 down cards and 5 community cards, which everyone can use. You take all 7 cards and make your best 5-card poker hand. Now, throughout all of that, there are going to be 4 rounds of betting, and it's the betting that determines who are the winners and who are the losers. Now, the lovely thing about this show is that you actually get to see everyone's whole cards. That's right, you can actually sit in their shoes and decide how you would have played each particular hand, whether you would have done anything differently. Now, this is a live show. I'm live. Matt's live. However, the poker is actually delayed by 5 minutes, which means that players playing can't actually turn on their TVs and seeing what each other's whole cards are. Now, I did say it's a live show. It's also an interactive show. So if you have any posing questions to myself or Matt, there are 2 ways you can do that. The first way is by texting the show. And you do that by, remember, it's a new text number, 84222. There it is on your screen. You have to put the word poker in, put your question in after that, and your name at the bottom. Now, as well as that, you can also email the show. And the way to do that is send it to poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. There it is on your screen. And when you get a chance, have a look at our website. We've got a fabulous website, lots of good stuff and informative things going on there, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Now, as well as that, Matt, tomorrow night we have a Poker Bowl qualifier.
Indeed, we do.
Yeah, so that's going to be lots of fun. And this is our 2nd week, I believe. Okay, so we've had 1 week already last week. So this is our 2nd week. And they go through to a semi-final. And the finalists, the people who end up, the winners out of the semi-final, end up here in the studio.
Fantastic stuff. And how many weeks is that running for before the final?
Well, there's a semi-final and there are 6 preliminary rounds. Yeah.
Excellent stuff, okay.
So that should be lots of fun. So
well, I'm on tomorrow night, so I shall look out for that. Myself and Michelle will be tuning into that.
Yeah, well, I think you'll be watching it, won't you? So,
think so.
It's going to be live on Poker Night Live. So, great thing about it there is to have a look at that tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. I think the actual game starts. However, in the meantime, I think it's time we had a look around the tables. Do you want to take us through that, Matt?
It would be my pleasure. Okay, first table tonight, folks, is the cash game. This is a 50-cent $1 table. Everybody's sitting down there, plenty of familiar faces, and we'll be coming back here a bit later on. Table 2 is one of our sit and goes. This is a $5 sit and go. Just got a few hands going there, I think, by the look of the cash. So we'll come back and tune in here again a bit later on. Another sit and go on table 3. This is a $10 sit and go. Again, only a couple of hands in. Familiar faces, we will tune in very soon. And of course, it wouldn't be Poker Night Live without the Green Table of Love. It's our multi-table tournament that we are going to tune in and out of all night long, and we will end up towards the end of the show on the final table with our winners.
Excellent stuff. So, lots of good stuff. And those multi-tables are particularly good, aren't they? Because you seem to get a lot of play in them.
Yeah, and, absolutely. And it's one of those things where, we tune into the sit and goes, and they kind of can be quite snap, snap, snap. But with the multi-tables, people have got plenty of play, plenty of chips. They get a bit more time to muck around with. And then we, of course, pick it up towards the end of the show with the guys that amassed all the chips, plenty of action. And if you're lucky, a fairly long period of heads up, which we don't always get a lot of here on the show. So it's always good to pick up.
Yeah. Shows different variations and different ways people play. So what have you been up to, Matt, since we last got together?
I've been playing a lot of online poker, actually, a huge amount, because I was really I was so busy doing other poker-related things, I wasn't really playing. So I've spent a lot of time online. Had one of the worst days of my entire life the other day. Played 8 tournaments and managed to cash in only 1 of those. And that's my worst ever day, according to my statistics.
When I was speaking to Dr. Tom, he was telling me that was one of your best achievements.
Oh, how very funny. How very droll. Yes, no, so I had a bit of a bad day, but the next day got better, and I'm back in a nice little swing now. So just rather than talking and writing about poker, actually playing it for a change. So it's been good fun.
Yeah, good. So what did you do to actually come out of that, little bad session?
I kind of went back and looked through my results, and we always talk about how important it is to keep an honest record of your results. Not only so that you can study and improve your own game, but so that when you do have a really bad day like the one I had, you realise where it is in the whole variance that we talk about poker. You have good days, you have bad days. But on the whole, I didn't do so much damage that I ended up, in debt. It was like, I've been doing well, building up. So I really just took a look at that, put it in perspective, deep breath, cup of coffee, and then just got straight back into it, didn't let it affect the way I played, and then, sure enough, I just had one of those days where you just, every time you went in with the best of it, someone outdrew you, someone seemed to hit a miracle, and it's like, that's what poker's like. As long as most of the time you're always getting involved with the best of it, we know in the long run, we're always advocating that, you know, it's a long run game, and that's what happened to me for the rest of the week, is played my game, picked it back up.
Excellent stuff. Okay, so thanks very much for that. So if you do have long-winded sessions that don't quite go your way, you know what to do. Anyway, time to have a little look at our multi-table tournament to see how these boys are playing. So let's see who's kicking some butt here.
Well, might I be so bold as to run you through the information about our tournament tonight, Mark?
Yeah, far away.
It's a beauty. We've got 128 players here. We've got, it's a $10 buy-in, so that gives us obviously a prize pool of $1,280. 192,000 chips in play, so the difference here with the multi-table tournament, everybody starts with 1,500 in chips rather than 1,000, if I believe that's correct.
Yeah, 1,500
That's
chips,
right,
yeah.
yep, 128, yep, 192,000 in play. And obviously these blinds also are 12 minutes on the clock, so as we said a little while ago, you get a bit more play, not quite so much pressure to, you know, it's not like in half an hour's time everyone's destined to be all in. The top prize tonight, we've got $384, not bad for a $10 buy-in. I'll just give you the top three, we'll come back and talk about the other prizes, but top prize, 384, second is 256, and third is 160. So, in fact, anybody that gets into the top five is going to have made 100 plus back for their $10 investment, which is, of course, the beauty of tournaments. It's not necessarily a huge buy-in, but if you can wade through the field, and 128 is a pretty reasonable field. Sometimes we see 250-odd people here, but not too scary a field to get through to the money.
No, absolutely. And nice return on your money as well. 38 times is pretty good. So it should be an interesting tournament. We've got a couple of regulars as well. El Pig, who usually does quite well in these, and a new name there in the top corner, the one I haven't seen before, Skippy Doo. So is he sort of like half kangaroo, half dog?
Yeah, kind of like, maybe it's like, you know, you've got Scooby and Scrappy. Maybe Skippy's like an Australian cousin that turns up like every once in a while and solves a mystery and then goes back down under. Yeah. It's just a guess, Mark. I know it wasn't probably the answer you were looking for.
Yeah. Which half is which?
I like to think that it's like a kangaroo but with a dog's face, which when you think about it, kangaroos have kind of got dog's faces anyway. Again, probably not the answer or the information that the viewers are looking for, but there you go. Don't ask me any questions. Okay. I hope you've learnt your lesson, and let's move on. But yeah, Scotty, I had a little game against Scotty a bit earlier on tonight, which I lost, but I blame it on lots of other reasons apart from poker.
Okay.
That's the kind of... just you know, I know it's 10 minutes into the programme, but I like to set my stall out nice and early so that no one messes with me.
Well, Nero's setting his stall out. He's saying, I want those blinds.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let you have them too often.
Nice little move on the button, just early days, just start setting a bit of a trend. It's quite tough, isn't it, on the multi-table tournaments? It's probably one of the only elements that's different from a single table, and it's what I'm about to say seems obvious, but with a single table, you sit down with the people you're going to play the game with right until the very end. Whereas, of course, with the multi-tables, as the people start getting knocked out, you can get moved around. And if you've spent the last half an hour building up some particular image, of course, it's got to start all over again on the next table. So you need to be able to adjust to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not done. Claude does think that has helped him a little bit. It actually hasn't helped him because it's now it goes down to Skippy, who has the 10 kicker as opposed to the 9 kicker. So he had 3 pairs there, but 3 pairs don't count. Only you take your best 2 pairs, and your kicker, in his case, was a 9. In Skippy's case, was a 10. So this is interesting that we've got Nairo here, 920 already. So I think he's going to be quite a swingy player, especially as we saw him raised on the button there. So he's likely to go through quite a few swings, isn't he, in this game? Yeah,
absolutely. And it very much defines the style that people like to play in these longer tournaments. You know, some people are very much advocates of the sit very tight, wait for hands, there's no pressure from the blinds. And then you've got the other kind of players who are very much about trying to accumulate those chips early that are going to carry them through. And we hear a lot from our viewers who say, you know, I get to the middle stage of a tournament and I haven't got many chips to play with.
Well, look, we've got the mother of all hands in the number 1 seat, 7-8 offsuit. What a surprise, it takes down the bacon.
Well, only if Scotty's thrown it away.
Scotty,
See?
don't have no faith. No faith.
Didn't fancy the king. King on board scared him off.
Scotty, 7-8, never loses. You should know that. How many times? He's been on this show a lot of times, hasn't he, Scotty? And he still doesn't know what's going on. I don't understand.
You think he'd learn and listen.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick jump through the cheese grater.
Up there.
Have another look at one of our other tables going on tonight.
It was something dizzy, that.
Yeah, I must say I feel quite nauseous.
Yeah.
Well, again, a couple of familiar names down here. And by the look of the chips, we've had a bit of action here as well, as Rev has already got himself a grand up on where he began.
Yeah, well, this is what happens when you play 7-8 offsuit.
Oh, look, do you know what? I might hit you. I know that it's only James really that's meant to hit you, but I could hit you proxy.
Yeah, he's got faith and he sticks with it.
Yeah, well, Will's 2 overcards. It's not really where you want to be with a small pair, but that's the thing with playing small pairs, I think, is if you want to get involved in it, you can only do that if you know you're disciplined enough to give them up if you don't improve, because you're 95% going to see overcards come down. So
yeah. He had an opportunity there because that was quite a nice flop for him, generally speaking. Yeah. King 2-2, that wasn't too bad. He had to worry about the king, generally speaking. So, and he never really asked any questions, so he was never going to get any answers.
Absolutely.
So Popeye zooms to the lead with his queen 10. He's now got a pair of 10s, and Will might do some damage here. He might think that his pair of 6s looks a lot better with that ace in his hand, but it's not that much better.
I'm just opting to call, which doesn't really achieve anything other than buying the next card. You don't really learn much about your opponent. Doesn't there was really a lot more strength.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's either a fold or a re-raise in that situation.
And now he becomes more involved financially in the pot, with still not the worst hand, but not the best.
Yeah, I think Popeye probably put him on some kind of draw, probably a flush draw, and said, well, if you've got a flush draw, then I might as well make it expensive for you to draw to it.
It is very hard playing, as here we see a6 again. Playing those weak aces is hard, because if you hit the bottom part of your hand, then brilliant, you've got a nice kicker, but you can be so easily beaten on the board. And if you hit the ace, then do you like your kicker?
Now, I don't understand this, Matt. Tell me. This guy, Will, 2574, he's called with Jack 4. He's had it checked round to him on the flop, and he just checked as well. I mean, if you're going to play Jack 4, you're going to have to bluff a lot, aren't you? Because you're not going to hit hands that fall in your favour. Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing, is you can't play that expecting the hand itself to win. So you've got to really be relying on your play, your post-flop sort of ability to bully people around. So yeah. I don't know, maybe again it's this early stage of the tournament. People don't want to get knocked out this early. People, maybe some more experienced players, know they can be a bit more loose and a bit more weird. And just by making moves on people.
Yeah, but he wasn't. That's the thing. He called with it, and he didn't want to make a move. That's the thing I can't understand. He's had it checked round to him. You've got position on the board, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense. If you're going to play a hand like that, you've got to be prepared to actually bluff a lot, because you're not going to hit anything. Yeah.
I find quite a lot of people, and I've done this a bit more, is that now if you're about to make a bluff, quite often people will call on the flop. If somebody has tried to steal it, so I mean, we're seeing the cards here, but if you don't really know anything about your opponents, if somebody makes a bet at the flop, quite often somebody will call it, and then you'll find that the next time the guy under the gun then will check it, because he didn't like the fact you called him last time, and then you can make moves. So a lot of people not actually trying to bluff and win it on the flop, but setting themselves up to steal it with a bluff the next card. Or maybe we're giving him too much credit, but yeah, one of those things you probably need to watch a player for a few more hands to get a feel for his pace.
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's about watching their patterns and watching what they're prepared to do and what they're not prepared to do. Not many people will call with absolutely nothing, but there are some out there. So we've got a few hands here, sort of middle-ish type hands.
Yeah, and it looks like Yeller has kind of donated some of his chips to almost everybody else on the table.
Yeah, they've all got a little bit extra out of it on that right side there. Poostache, Golden Jaguar, seems, and Kaf seem to be the recipients. Kaf in the lead now, and he'll like that, because he's actually got a weaker king against him. Now, how confident will he be with his King Jack? Well, I think he's probably going to raise here. No, he's just called.
Yeah.
So, barring a miracle for Poos, you can hit a jack to get out of this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I think just a little bit kind of passive play here by Kaf.
Yeah. Well, he put a little stop bet in there, Poustache, so at least he probably did himself minimal damage there by putting that final bet in. I think there's a chance that, I don't know if Caf would have done, but there's a chance if he put a bet of 60 that he might have made it, like 150 to play or something, and he would have had to call that off.
Yeah, and you've got to kind of be a bit worried if you're Poos and you're kind of you keep making a bet and it keeps getting called, and then you make another bet and it keeps getting. At some point you're thinking, well, you don't look like you're winning here. You're either got to make a bigger bet and really find out something, or you've just got to hand over the chips, because it looks like you're going to end up handing over the chips anyway, and you're the one dictating how much you give away. Yeah,
it's a fine line, isn't it, though, between making the guy pay and just not having the best of it, because at the end of the day he wants to protect any draws that are out there. Protect himself against draws, but at the same token, he doesn't want to give away too many chips with his, with his pair of king, with one pair and a 10 kicker.
Yeah, but as you say, I just tend to think if you're going to get involved, you've got to take the initiative, haven't you? That's a lot of the thing we say about the betting is if you're going to drive it, be the driving force, making kind of fairly minimal bets and seeing them called and repeating that minimal bet. It's not really throwing out a very impressive message to the crowd.
So you're saying basically you should be betting a bit higher?
I think so. I tend to think that if you're playing, I mean, King 10, it's not the strongest thing in the world, even when you hit. I just think that if you're really going to play that hand, you can't limp in, because the strength of the hand, it's like, because the hand had elements of weakness, you actually need to compensate for that by being far stronger. If it was a monster hand, then of course you can just walk along at whatever pace you want. But I think if the hand itself is reasonably beatable, you want to get a bit more into it.
Oh, surprising that Golden Jaguar didn't call there with his 6-7 suited. I mean, okay, we can see he's missed, but I think it was only a minimal bet and he had position on the field.
Yeah, I'd go with that totally. I mean, in the early stages of the tournament, it's exactly what I'm doing. If you can get in cheaply in a late position, well, really, you may as well make that early investment when it's such a small percentage of your chips. If you hit, fantastic, you could well get paid off.
But plus you've got position as well.
Exactly, yeah. So you're in the strongest position. If you do hit, then you can completely command it. And if you don't, it was an investment you made that didn't pay off. It's not going to cripple you to chuck 30 in at this stage.
Okay, so there we have it. We had a little look at our multi-table tournament, so we'll be dipping in and out of that like Matt suggested throughout the course of the night, so don't go too far away. In the meantime, we've got an email, an early one starting off. Nice easy one for you, Matt. Are you ready?
Oh, yep.
From Dirty Papa. Or is it to Dirty Papa? No, it's from Dirty Papa, and he's saying, "Hey guys, love the show. What's the difference between a good tourney player and a good cash player? Which do you consider your forte and why?"
Okay, well actually, do you know, you're going to get a lot of different answers out of different people. For me, the single most important kind of definition is that cash play is much more, especially if it's limit cash game, much more about the maths, knowing your odds, knowing when you have the odds to call, knowing when the outs you have versus the pot odds you're getting back makes sense. Because with cash play, you can afford to be a bit more speculative in that when you're playing a tournament, and of course if it's a freeze out, you have one life, is that if somebody puts you to a big call, in a cash game, if you have actually nothing but a draw, but you have a lot of outs to hit, if you're on flushes and straights with maybe a middle pair or some scenario like that, and there's plenty of money, it's worth pursuing, because we know that a percentage of the time you're going to hit that, and it makes it a profitable hand to play. And if you miss that, then it's not like, that's it, coat, hat, I'm going home. You have the option to continue playing in cash games. So I would say for the cash games, it is much more about understanding the maths and the strength of any given situation. With tournaments, that's really where it's about your style of play. I would say things like people that play on lots of aggression, people that are very good at putting pressure on you, because it's a horrible pressure knowing that this could be the end of your tournament life. And there are lots of players out there that are very good at sensing weakness. When you get to the bubble and people are worried about making the money and staying in, they put pressure on you. So I would say that's the key thing for me, is that tournament is, for me, much more about a feel about the players you're against, being able to put pressure, whereas cash is more about patience and the maths of it. I'm sure people give you many more other reasons. In fact, Mark, any thoughts to differentiate?
Yeah, I think I've just made a couple of notes while you've been talking there. My things are with cash games, you need to have a degree of patience, and you need to be a little more emotionally controlled, I think. With tournaments, you certainly need to have more of an adaptable game. So because you know, there's never a status quo, whereas in cash games it's always the same. The blinds are always the same, the people generally are always the same. There's nothing, a great deal that's changing hand after hand. Whereas in tournaments it changes, it can change pretty much hand after hand. Big stacks do affect the way you should play tournaments according to short stacks, whereas that doesn't really get that much affected in cash game play. So you're having to adapt a lot more. Situations are changing continuously in tournaments, and you need to keep a very keen eye on what's going on in a tournament and be ready to adapt to those changing circumstances, because they do change, and they change, you know, every 5 minutes they probably do change.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, as far as which one I consider myself, I'm far more into tournament play, because also I play poker for fun. You know, I enjoy the game, and I find with cash games, you've got to have, as you say, it's about patience. You've got to be able to sit and grind and wait for the opportunities, whereas I like the pace of tournaments, the fact that there's a lot at stake. And, you know, you get a lot more, I find you get a lot more kind of chat in the tournaments, a lot more like, good luck guys, somebody's all in, and everyone's kind of hoping that he gets knocked out because it'll move them up, but they're also rooting for the underdog. So I find there's a lot more fun goes on in a tournament. And of course there's the payouts, you know, the payout, it's like tonight in our multi-table, $10 buy-in, top prize $380. So you can expect, like the bad day I had, you know, you have a bad day, chop, 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 you only need to cash in one of those and you jump back up. So it's a much more, you know, exciting cash. You can grind, you can go up. You might spend 9 hours playing a cash game and end up back where you started because you've gone up, you've gone down. Whereas the tournaments, it's all or nothing. And I like the pace, the early stages, the middle stages, the heads up. It's all good stuff for me.
Yeah. As for me, just to let you know what mine is, I think mine is pretty much on a level par with each other. Cash games, tournaments, they're pretty much the same to me. Which one I'm better at? I think I'm pretty about the same, equal in both. So I don't think I'm better at one or the other.
Rubbish in both, I think, is what Mark's trying to say.
Probably.
But that's, you know, that's good for us.
Anyway, let's head over to a little cash game.
You know I don't mean it, don't you, Mark? You
no,
know,
I don't actually.
We're like Starsky and Hutch, you know, we're just you know.
I think
just sparring on
camera. I think an apology is due.
Never.
Okay, you're going to get some James treatment.
Exactly. Okay, well that's right. If I'm going to be playing a bit later on, I'm sure you get your own back when you pick apart the various mistakes. I'll be making, just, you know, to illustrate the point. Obviously, if ever I make a mistake, it's not a genuine mistake. It's really just to help the viewers out.
Okay.
To illustrate the point about how badly one can play when one chooses to do so.
Okay, we'll all remember that.
So here we are, 50 cent, $1.
Yeah, this is in fact a cash game, so we're watching, like Matt said, a 50 cent, $1 cash game. $100 is the maximum buy-in, $10 is the minimum buy-in, or anywhere in between. This is a full table, you can get up and go as you please. Obviously, you, the viewers at home, are seeing everyone's hole cards. Of course, they can't see each other's hole cards. This is taken from 5 minutes ago, so we're delayed by 5 minutes. And of course, at the time they were playing, they couldn't see what each other's cards were, hence the skill in the game.
And a few regular familiar faces down here.
Yeah, this is a sort of a motley crew here, really, isn't it? We've got Portman Road is a pretty regular nowadays. Irld, I've seen a few times. In fact, I've seen pretty much all of them recently.
Snap It, Ken's there, Cat Attack, Robo Squirrel. Yeah,
there's no one that I haven't seen there for a while, so this is not my, this wouldn't be a first choice game I'd normally sit in terms of the players, because one of the things you want to play, when you are looking to play a cash game, one of the first things you're choosing, which you obviously can't choose in a tournament, is game selection. And it is important to pick a good game, and you don't want to be sitting there with where half the table or more is full of good professional players, for the simple reason that all you're doing is carving up the weaker players between you. And of course that means if there are 4 good players on that table and you sit at a table of 8, guess what? You're only going to be splitting everything 4 ways. So, and that's the assumption that you have everything your own way. So, probably not a good idea to sit on tables like that. Probably better to sit on tables where, you know, the players aren't particularly good, or at least you know, there's not too many of them on the table.
What's your criteria when you sit down on an online game? What are you looking for? The average pot size or names? You know, what's your
names?
Attractor?
Yeah, names. Yeah, it's definitely names. It's not average pot size. You know, the pot, that shouldn't really make too much difference. If there are good players on there, then I really just don't want to get, you know, there's no point, because it's going to take me twice as long to carve out anything. So I'd rather sit at a table with no one on there, no known players on there, rather than, you know, regardless of what the pot sizes are, because that's the important thing, I think.
So you want to just sit and beat up fish, don't you? That's what you're saying, I think.
Well, that's, that's part of the game. That's part of cash games, absolutely, yeah.
Well, that's a real smattering of hands here. Pocket 8s, Ace Jack, Queen King, all entirely playable, and no one's got
I think the only thing missing is the fact that Cat Attack hasn't got the nut flush draw.
Yeah, absolutely, and Nick and 1 on the button. Happy to find out if anyone's hit a 9, because that's really the only person that's likely to answer him, and he would have known pretty much immediately where he was. Let's be honest, on a cash table, no one's going to, again, back to that previous question, you know, you don't need to make those kind of moves in a cash game, because it is very much, I'd say, about, you know, seeing the value of your hand. If it was a tournament and you felt inclined and you're particularly aggressive, you go all in there and scare the guy away, making, you know, representing the 9. But why would you want to risk that when you don't hold that 9?
Oh, look at this. We could have carnage here if the 9 appears.
Yeah.
That'll give Snap It 2 pair and Irld the flush, the straight. Well, going back to that previous hand, do you feel that Snap It perhaps missed out on a bet there, even though he wouldn't have won? He had a pair of 8s, and the flop came Queen 9-9, and he just let it go to Nick N1, who had position. Now, most people in that position will bet on a flop like that, regardless of what they have. He happened to have top pair, but unless Snap It thinks he's a very tight player, he's unlikely to do that. He should perhaps be betting out first to ask the question as to whether his 8s are any good.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we always say this, don't we? You know, betting is a way of asking a question. I guess it really depends how Snap It regards a pair of 8s. You know, does he consider that to be a strong pair, or is that, you know, we spoke earlier on about, you know, if you have something like a pocket 4s or pocket 3s, do you just try and get into the action? If you hit your set, then fantastic, but if not, then you've got to be prepared to let it go before it's too expensive. Maybe he had already decided that the 8 was only worth playing to see if he hit, and when he didn't, he's happy to just let go of it. But I think the tricky thing there is that if you bet and you just get a flat call, you're out of position, another card comes down, if it isn't yours, what are you doing now? Are you checking and having the same mood made you as the previous round of betting? Or, I think the thing is that's all about position. If the position had been different there, I think it's going to be a different hand. But I think maybe Snap It, again, we know his experience is, if he's out of position, does he... Because it's almost the worst thing, if you make a bet like that where you are trying to find out something, people raise back at you, then you kind of have a message. If people fold, you know you are the stronger. When somebody just flat calls you, card comes down, you're under the gun again, and it's like, if I check, is the guy going to just raise me out of principle? You know. So I think some people are quite happy to just not play when they're in that position, just let it through and wait until they've got better cards or at least a better position in the sequence.
Yeah, okay. Well, Snap It doesn't like the 7-8 suited there. I don't blame him. He got a raise, he's out of position, and that's you want to have at least position if you're going to call a raise, and he wasn't in position. And I wouldn't advocate calling a raise of 8 anyway in that situation, even with position. So that is an okay fold. PLC doesn't want to know with his King 7 suited. Now, Snap It, would he make a little button still here? He does. Attempt it. A bit on the heavy side. 4. I would have... made it 350, but he's gone for it, and this is not a bad flop for Nick N1. And Snap It can probably think, oh, he hasn't got any of that, so if he checks, I can bet. Now this is interesting. I would actually, Snap It didn't follow through. Now, the interesting thing about this particular hand is that Nick N1 called, and we can see he didn't have anything, but he did have the best hand at that moment. The thing to remember whilst playing there is that Snap It actually had the betting lead. And if Nick N1 had a hand, he would have just checked it to Snap It, who would have now bet, and Nick N1 would have come out re-raising. So it's a strange play when actually the person who is now trying to take the betting lead from you. And that's really a strange sort of play. Now, having said that, he might have done the same move had he ever had a pair of 6s, just in case Snap It doesn't bet. So he might have done that move, but it's unusual when a player tries to take the betting lead from you. It usually suggests they haven't got a hand.
Yeah,
or not a strong hand anyway.
And I think you're right when you said the flop. The flop really was quite nice because, again, when you're playing and you're constantly looking at the betting and you're trying to put a player on a range of hands, is I guess for Snap It to have made that move. And as you point out, it was quite a big move. It was the raise to 4. So you think, well, what hand are you going to put Snap It on? So when the board comes down with 2s and 3s, you think, well, how likely is he to be playing anything that flop likes so aggressively? Because he's not going to be playing any part of a straight, because unless the guy's just a maniac, but this is a cash table, we know these guys aren't maniacs here. So I think maybe it's one of those things, and this is obviously the game to play at home. It's you know, when you're watching, don't just look away from the screen because you've folded. You've got to watch the people's play and try and put them on a range of hands and see how often you hit it. And maybe Nick just had it right. He saw that the guy had something before the flop that he wanted to make a move with, and the flop comes down in such low cards that, well, I don't know if this guy's got any part of it.
Yeah.
Suited ace-jack, not too shabby.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of these ace-jacks around, haven't we? We've seen 2 or 3 of them now in the last 5 minutes. So Cat Attack had a couple of them. And he's made it 3, and I like the bet of 3. I think that's a nice little bet. He's got a few people behind him, but 3 or 4 in that sort of situation is good, and it's enough to take it down, so well done.
Yeah.
And snap it with a hand here. How's he going to play this? Is he going to slow play it? No, he's come out with a bet of 4 again.
Seems to be his standard. When he wants to make a move, that seems to be the bet he throws out. But maybe Benny will go for this, but he's going to be out of position.
No, I can't imagine he'll go for that. No, not to an under the gun raiser. That's
no, exactly.
Ace 10 is no good. You wouldn't even call with ace jack. You know, you'd be. Yeah, it's not even a great call with ace queen really, but ace king is sort of a minimum requirement in that situation, I think.
And as you said, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, with a cash game, is that there's no pressure on you. You know, with the tournaments, we've got the blinds are going up. You know you're putting pressure on yourself, but the blinds are going to start doing damage to you. Whereas here, it is very much a case of just wait until you like your hand, you like your situation, you like your position, because there's really nothing to be lost here but the blind. Obviously, there's to be lost an opportunity to take a pot, but you're the only person that can pressurise yourself into getting involved into a hand. It's not like the tournament's about to come to an end and you're all in any minute now. So it is a very different attitude you've got to take with the cash games. Pocket eights.
Okay, I think we'll just see one more hand, and then we'll take a little look at see if there's any more emails that have come through. Okay, so we're going to do an email, Matt, and then we'll perhaps have a little look in the multi-table tournament, see what kind of progression has been there.
Fantastic.
So this one is from one of our regulars. This is from Stamper in LA, so a regular viewer, so this is great. Great show as always, thanks very much, Stamper. He's saying, hey, I keep hearing that limit hold'em has more variance than no limit hold'em. Is that really the case? In no limit, one cash game can give you several opportunities to either double up or lose your whole buy-in. On the other hand, it seems that limit makes it harder for people to push out drawing hands after the flop. What do you think?
Well, I think the truth is what you'll find with the limit games, and this is, I think, I mean, this is going to be a bit of a generalisation, but I think a lot of people coming to poker today, you know, in general, have been brought up on no limit because it's what we show a lot of. It's what you'll see most of the tournaments televised. And I think when people go from playing no limit to playing limit, what you'll find is that the action goes right to the river a lot more than you'll see, because in no limit, of course, we have that added bonus of going all in on making big moves, putting pressure against people. To a certain degree, the same with pot limit, but with limit, it's very hard to make any scary moves, because once somebody has an investment in that pot, the more money that goes into it, obviously the greater the odds are that they're getting back for their investments, depending on which limit you're actually playing. But as far as the variance goes, I think the truth is you are going to get hands bust more often. You know, I think one of the failings of a lot of people playing no limits, they're very good at playing pre-flop. They know the strength of tens versus ace-jack versus 10-king, but once the flop comes down, a lot of people don't know how to play so well after that. And with limit, you are going to see a lot of hands progress right to the river, and a lot of people fall down because they're getting outdrawn. The people that are playing, I mean, online, I find this all the time at lower limits. People won't let go of a hand. If they've got an ace, they're going to hold on to it right to the end, right to the end. So I think it really depends where you're coming from. And if you're comparing the variance of your game in one side of, you know, in no limit to limit, it's probably not necessarily there's an inherent difference in that variance, but probably in the game you're playing, you will see it if your background is no limit. I think traditionally lots of people came from limit into no limit, but these days I see it the other way around, and I think it has a greater impact on you when you start playing limit.
Yeah, I believe you're probably right on that one, Stamper. I'm not really an expert at playing limit, in as much that I haven't really put enough hours into it to give you my own personal experience. However, my poker brain suggests that it would be a more variance for the simple reason that you're involved in a lot more draws than you would be in no limit. Whereas obviously you're generally nearly always getting the right odds to call to a lot of things. So hence you'll find that you're in there with a lot more hands, and also you're making a lot more draws and trying to go for a lot more draws. Hence, it means that your variance is increased. So my my poker knowledge suggests to me that that is probably the case. However, the best person probably to ask with that is Cass, who's a limit expert. He spent a long time in Vegas playing limit and only limit. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, then that's the truth of it. You're just going to get involved in more hands that will go further on, and other people will come with you longer. So yeah, but Casper, make a note. The next time Casper's on, hit him with that one, because I'm sure he's got many more years of being able to dredge up some good examples of how that might affect you.
Okay, excellent. Well, let's head over to our multi-table tournament and see what's happened.
Well, some big chips here already. $5.5 grand. We had 128 players. We're down to 95. You can see where some of the chips are going, because some of these guys are already starting to tick up from that original 1,500. Golgot's obviously had a few good moves down there.
Yeah, he's obviously hit a few hands and got a few people to a few non-believers.
And indeed, look, there's Cat Attack that we've just been watching on our cash game.
Yeah, playing, mixing it up a bit, playing a multi-table tournament, playing a cash game. And we've got Golgot, who's our chip leader at the moment with 5,645, so he's looking pretty good at the moment. And he's in a good situation at the moment, isn't he? He's got 56 times the big blind.
And then here we go, talk about timing. The big blind just happens to have a pair of kings that's developed into three of a kind.
And no more outs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the end of that, and a bit unlucky for the threes, but what can he do?
Yeah, the blinds are 50 or 100. He didn't have a huge amount to play with and thought, well, it's a pair, it's a made hand. Just, that's going to happen sometimes.
So the ace-9 making a raise, and, well, Cat Attack says, I'll have a little look with my 6-4 suited. Well, he's got some backdoor flush opportunities, so that's really about it.
Yeah, a little bit speculative there. Maybe just enjoying the fact that he's got a reasonable pile of chips to play with.
Yeah, or a couple of perfect cards for a straight. But doesn't want to know. And middle pair is good enough for Sagus. He believes that if you've got a king, you'll soon let me know.
I think it's something that's interesting. I said something a little while ago about people being very good at playing pre-flop versus post-flop. And there seems to be, I'm finding this, that, I say, I just spent a fair bit of time online, there's lots of people that really, really know what they're doing with their starting hands. They know what to throw away, they know what to play. But as soon as they don't hit the flop, they really don't seem to know what to do. And quite often, I was doing this just kind of as just for the hell of experimenting, but just making bets. Every time I was involved in a hand, if there was no bet before me after the flop, just make a bet. And most people seem to be, this is a strong hand, they're playing ace-queen, and it comes down 10, 6, 5. You make a bet, and they just get out of the action because they've just convinced themselves that you must have hit. And I think it's something that people really, really highlight as a part of the game to develop, because if you can increase your post-flop play, you really, really gives you an edge. Most people seem to be pretty solid with pre-flop, but post-flop is where I sense a...
Don't tell James that.
Really?
That was one of our bugbears, yeah. He was basically saying that there was a situation where he was third to act, and he had made a raise, he had the 3 callers, he was third to act post-flop, and the flop was something like 8-5-2 or something. And he had ace-king and missed, obviously. And the small blind, big blind both checked, comes around to him, and he checks as well.
Nice.
And, he had one person to beat. The guy had, one of the guys that had called him was 10-5 suited on the button. He'd hit middle pair. And that was it, So I said, well, that was the thing. He says, well, I didn't want to bet into 3 players.
But surely a bet's likely to sort of weasel some of those guys out. Again, just reinforcing what I'm saying is that if there are people that play a hand, they're playing 10 jack or 9 jack and don't hit the flop and they check round to you, you probably still end up going against somebody with nothing more than ace king in your hand. But you're probably going to be up against one person rather than 3 people.
Yeah, at best.
Yeah.
Yeah, at worst rather. I mean, that was the thing. One of the things he says, well, I don't want to bet into 3 players. Well, look at here, we've got something for everyone: an ace high flush draw for Golgot and the made flush for Sugus. And
those chips going to go to his head. Is Golgot going to fancy crossing his fingers? He is. We don't like playing poker with our fingers crossed.
No, that was a big bet there to call. He wasn't giving him odds.
And now,
And he's missed, and he says, well, I'll take those chips from you, Golgot. Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Draws of death, aren't they?
Draws of death, and especially at this stage, there's no reason to do that. That Golgot's sitting on whatever it was, $5.5 grand. The blinds are 5,100.
Yeah, he doesn't need to get involved.
He really doesn't need to get involved. But here we are. Let's jump over.
New table.
But
table's been moved as players have gone out.
Of course, that can work in your favour, can't it? Is that if you're not enjoying the table you're at, if you're suffering a number of sort of rubbish hands, or you just seem to have spent the last 10 hands just throwing it away, is that actually get moved to a new table? Clean slate.
It does both things, doesn't it? It either works for you or against you.
Yeah, it really depends what the game is. I mean, I guess it's a case of if you've had a really good run, well, that's the end of that. You've got to start all over again. But similarly, if you've not really had the best game up to this point, you can sit down. And people will make assumptions by looking at your chip stack, obviously, to a certain degree. But a pair of queens makes a nice little raise. Just a little tickle. Sevens, they're going to fancy fingers crossed poker. Get some odds there. He does cross his fingers. And
well, look at this. We've got tip player's now got involved with the hand, and he's now hit top pair. And don't really like calling with the 10-jack out of position there. But he has done, and he's now put a bet out, and BW says, well, I think he's going to raise him here, isn't he? He's going to stick his chips in. If you can beat my queens, then good luck to you, I think he's saying. Yeah. And Tip Lads probably has to call now. He's probably committed another 1,400. Yeah, he's getting 3 to 1 his money. So just short of actually making his 2 pair, but probably enough now that he's committed that. Part of that he has to account for a partial bluff or a draw.
Oh, there's a flush draw just to make it worse, but doesn't need it. Let's fly through cyberspace, Mark.
Yeah.
Let's journey together.
Okay. All right, back to the cash game that we were watching earlier. This is a 50-cent $1 cash game. And we're seeing the same situation, really. Benny pump with the top pair and snap it with the over pair. And snap it takes that one down.
Yep, gets himself over $100 in the bank. Monty, 9991. New it to the table since we last came and had a look. PLC 26. With a pocket nines. Suited ace-10 on the big blind.
Yeah, I don't like the call there by PLC. Not with a pair of nines. Not in that position. I don't mind if you're earlier on, perhaps, but not in that position.
Well, Benny's got himself a flush draw going on.
He's also got a pair now. He probably thinks he's best.
Yeah.
PLC is going to find it hard to call this one. With just a pair of nines, got 2 overcards to him.
Yeah, it's really a case of just 2 outs to keep him happy.
Yeah.
Does the right thing.
And also the fact that he didn't have a 9 of hearts in his hand, which means that if a 9 of hearts comes, he might make his set, but he might make a flush, he might give someone else a flush. So another reason why it wasn't a good situation for him.
Yeah, and you've got to all the time be realising that the cards you're waiting to hit, the cards you're sitting there going, give me a queen, is don't forget what else that might give people. I played in a game the other night, and this guy leapt out of his chair when he finally hit the straight he'd been waiting for, completely oblivious of the fact it brought a 3rd club to the table.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that you can no longer consider that one of your outs and whatever calculations he'd gone through to decide that he wanted to continue in the hand.
Now look what we've got here, Matt. We did have cat attack with the bottom end of the straight draw, and he would have hit it as well. So he's probably cursing now. But having said that, he did the right thing. It wasn't a particularly good draw, so you don't want to be calling with the bottom end of the straight. So, but we have got an up and down straight draw for Portman and a top pair, so he's got a nice hand there.
Well, Portman kind of waves the flag in the air really there.
Yeah.
Monty happy to just check it through and take it there.
Yeah, I like the re-raise there by Monty. He wanted to find out where he stood. And he also managed to increase, getting a few more chips into that pot, so well done. Ace-Jack again. And Cat Attack's got it. It's the 3rd time we've seen him have it, out of about 5 Ace-Jacks that we've seen. That'll
be our featured hand for the night then, I would imagine. It always seems to be whatever you get for the first hour, that's what you're going to watch all night long.
Not a bad flop, is it, for Portman Road? Although he would have preferred to see Jack-Jack instead of those 2 5s on there. That would have paid him off. And, well, that's probably going to slow down some action for Cat Attack. Worried about the 1 card straight now. Portman Road obviously doesn't care about the straight. He's got the house.
Just trying to work out what amount might possibly get paid off, but I think Cat's going to just let that go.
Yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? We always say this, you know, everyone go, oh, hello, and then they're going to sit out and take a break after that massive win, but, you know, all the whole what's your favourite hand is, it's not the hands, it's the situation. He's got a wonderful hand there, the flops all over him. Doesn't find a player or players with anything to actually get involved in paying him off.
Yeah, no, it's about situational, of course, yeah. Well, Benny Pump's looking for a flush or a 3-4-5. 3-4-5 is not ideal. Obviously, could make someone a better straight, but as per usual, you know, 117 times you're going to miss your flush. 1 out of 108, 1 out of 119 rather. You're going to hit it.
Yeah, it's not much of a number to look forward to, is it?
No, no. You're about, if I remember correctly, about 8 to 1, something along those lines, to actually make a flush draw. Never mind hitting it.
Yep.
So.
Well, there's the king for PLC. Benny's got the bottom pair. One bet's all it takes to get rid of him. Cat attack with some suited rubbish. Nick in one seems to keep getting these Jack Queen, King Queen offsuit combinations, but he's got the best position right now. He might be tempted to limp in as there's nobody but the blinds behind him, and we can see that they're very unlikely to make any moves with it. Well, that'll be a question asked. That's a big bet from Nick. Takes the blinds. Ace Jack for Cat attack.
Again,
I told
incredible.
you. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that is unbelievable. 4 times we've seen him now. Not that we're counting, but we've only seen about 15, 20 hands, and he's had Ace Jack 4 times.
And again, a King Queen, and Queen Jack and King Jack seems to be nicking one's hands. Made it better 3. The table average seemed to be the better 4. Cat attack, trying to see what's out there.
So I believe you're going to be doing the Beat the Presenter.
I shall. For only my second time. I never seem to get a game in here.
Don't you? Is
No.
that only your second one?
Yeah, that night you came and rescued me when I was all on my own for an hour.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was doing everything else, yeah. No, that was my first and only attempt, so I shall be sitting at the tables if you'd like to embarrass me live. Please do come and join the party. Ace, Jack, King.
Oh, look at that. He's had enough of these Ace Jacks missing all the time, so he's decided I'll see if I can do it. And Monty is saying, OK, I'll probably just check call here.
Exactly, he's just
And
handing
he
him
will
some
for
rope.
18, yeah.
Hand some rope. Oh, he's going to re-raise him. Now Cat's going, oh, poo.
Yeah, I think a Cat decided to make a bigger bet. He probably wouldn't have been so comfortable about doing that, Monty. And all he's done is said to him that it's a pretty weak hand I've got. Because if you had a big hand, you'd be trying to scare me off the possible flush that I might be on, Monty is thinking. So that's a big bet there, isn't it, by Monty? Very strong play.
That's 100 in the pot there. You know, it's only a 50-cent dollar game, but not to say that there's not plenty of money to be made in these things. They get quite excited when a couple of people do run into each other with a decent hand there.
Yeah.
Oh, good move by Monty there. Well read.
Okay. Okay, so we have seen a cash game.
Yep.
We've seen a multi-table tournament.
Yeah, we've had
a couple of times, so it's been interesting.
Yeah.
And we're going to see you in action in the sit and go soon. Should be fun.
Bring it on.
Yeah. What kind of? In fact, we won't talk about strategy. We'll talk about it afterwards.
I
so we'll
can't
find
give away
out.
my strategy. I mean,
Do you have a strategy though?
No, I haven't even thought about it yet, to be quite honest. Just mixing it up, doing the usual sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, let me tell you how you can get in contact with the show. If you want to pose any questions to myself or Matt, there are a couple of ways you can do that. First way is by texting, and the way to do that is by, don't forget, it's a new number, 84222 is the number you need to put on your mobiles now. Poker is the word you need to put in there as your first word. Type your question in after that and your name, and myself and Matt will read it out live on air. Alternatively, you can actually email the show as well. poker@pokerlightlive.co.uk. Don't forget, put your name at the bottom. And of course, we do have a fabulous website to go and have a look at. Lots of useful information, and you might want to take a look at that during the break. It's www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Worth having a look at our forum that's on there. We've got a great forum, lots of useful information. So certainly, it's nice little thing going on there,
Yeah,
isn't
nice
there?
little community. Lots of the guys that we watch playing on the tables get involved, so check it out. It's good stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're going to take a little break now, so don't go too far away because we're going to be right back right after this. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark Prince Charles Banin, and the one and only Matt Broughton. Now, you're in there, aren't you? You're playing away.
I am. Should I fold this, raise? Oh, it's a fold. Yeah, bit of suspense for you there, keep you interested.
Okay, we'll just see what that one was a bit later on in the show, no doubt. So, don't forget, if you want to contact the show, there's a few different ways you can do that, and I'll just give you a reminder of that. You want to start by texting the show, 84222. There's a text number on your screen. You need to put the word poker in, though, and your message, and followed by your name. Myself or Matt will actually read that one out live on air and give you our viewpoints on it. As well as that, you can also email the show, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk, and why not take a look at our website. Fabulous website, lots of useful information on there, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. Now, if you are tuned in tomorrow, tomorrow we have one of our qualifiers for the Poker Bowl. It's over 6 rounds with a semi-final and the final to be played here live in the studio. So that will be lots of fun, and that starts tomorrow at 8 o'clock, and you can be playing on it or you can watch it later on Poker Night Live. So, in the meantime, whilst all that's going on and while Matt's playing his game, we're going to hop into a $30 single table tournament.
A $30 single? Don't often see the $30 ones.
Wow, there we are. So this is a $30 sit and go, which means that each player would have forked out $30, which makes a prize pool of $240. First prize will actually be $120. Second prize will be $72, and third prize will be $48. Of course, if you do end up in fourth, nothing for you, I'm afraid.
It's a harsh world, the world of the sit and go single tables. But at least you've only got 8 people in total here. It's not one of the 10-seaters.
Yeah, so that's the nice thing about it. Only 8 people to beat. So we've got Ace Jack for Jay Beam having a look. Investing 20 to have a look. Let's see what happens. Well, don't think he's going to have a look. So, Ballard with the 7-8 offsuit. Will he have a little look? Or will he be playing tight? Let's see. Well, he decides to have a look, and Shaky's got absolutely nothing. Well, he's actually hit 2 pairs, 7 queens and 2s. And that's a shame there by Shaky. He's missed an opportunity. He must have figured that his 2 was probably good in that situation, regardless of what his kicker was. Should have had a little bet there, Shaky, I think. Simple bet of 50-60. And gets called there. Jay Bean wants to play it casually. He doesn't want to spend too much money on that. And so he just elects to call with his ace. Queens and aces. Aces and queens. 2 pair. So, ace, queen for Golden. What's he going to do? He decided to raise it up all the way up to 80. Monty might have a little look with his pair of 5s. See if he can hit a set. He's also got position on Golden Jaguar, which helps. When you've got those little minnow pairs, means you've got a chance to win without the cards. Well, that's a good flop for Monty. 10-10-2, he's got nothing too much to worry about, but Golden Jaguar is probably thinking the same thing. So Monty should be putting out a raise here. He really needs to say that he's got the best hand, and he needs to announce to Golden Jaguar. No, he's not, and that's what happens when you don't do that. You don't protect your hand. You let the guy sneak in, and he has snuck in, and now he's best. That was, you know that when you're playing a hand like a pair of 5s and you've got position, you know most of the time you're not going to hit your 5. So you've got to appreciate that sometimes there's going to be situations where you've got, where you feel that you've probably got the best hand without hitting your 5. So you've got to make that assessment, and once you've made that assessment, then you've got to take, you've got to be aggressive with it. But Golden Jaguar I thought played it quite well. He looked at that 10-10-2 and said, well, you know what, I think this hand's good for me. And under normal circumstances, he'd be right. 10-10-2 and you've got ace-queen, your hand is going to be favourite most of the time. Well, I think we have a winner in the midst here because Golden Jaguar has now hit another one on the end there. He's now hit his ace on the end and... yeah,
he didn't make too much for his money there, did he?
No.
He was pre-handed.
A little bit worried about what the others might have, but... he's now got a small blind with 9-5 and Jay Beam wants to take a peek with 7-8 offsuit. Don't blame him doing that. Monty's limped in under the gun and he's wondering what Monty's limped in with. And it's a strange one to be limping in with, A7. It's a nasty hand. Certainly he doesn't make very much, so why he'd want to limp in with it, I really don't know. But he's elected to. And who's going to feel comfortable about this hand? So, Jay Beam is the favourite, but we've seen that he's a passive player, so he's unlikely to bet this, but you never know, he might do. Certainly, a bet of 80 would be the right thing to do, for the simple reason that unless someone's got a pocket pair or a king, then obviously they can't call. And he's had two chances, Jay Beam, to actually put out a bet there, and he's ignored both of them, and that's a shame. If you're going to play the button, you need to play it with strength, and he just didn't there. He just said, OK, well, I'm not going to play the button, I'm just going to let you guys... just take it off me because there's no way I'm going to win with my 8 high. How's it going, Matt? Fast and furious, this one by the looks of it.
Yeah, it's zapping around. Just not very much excitement from me, I'm afraid, so far. It's going to be very interesting to watch other people because it's certainly going to be very interesting watching me.
Oh, okay. Well, that should be interesting. Yeah, well, that's usually the case, though, isn't it?
You know, it's like just being patient, waiting for a combination of position, elements. Perhaps some cards would be nice at some point if I could just pray to the poker god for a second. Just letting go of a 5-2 offsuit. Just not quite what I was fancying there and then.
No. Well, this is a flop for Shaky, not one for Golden Jaguar. It's horrendous for Golden Jaguar. Couldn't look much worse. And even if it gets, I was going to say, passed round to him without any bet, he probably still can't make a bet there in that situation. It's a horrible, nasty flop. And the reason I say you can't make even if Shaky didn't have a pair there, for the simple reason that it's a 9-10 queen board. There are all sorts of possibilities, all sorts of draws that people could be calling. So even if you bet, you're likely to get a call because someone will be making some kind of draw. So it's just not worth it. This is a case of forgetting about your sevens. Even if you hit your 7, you're not that comfortable with that. So that was a well played, I thought, there by Golden. And Shaky decided to limp with his 8s. Nice board for a pair of 8s. I'm sure he'll say, OK, well, let's just boost some money and put some money into this pot. 20's a bit weak there. It doesn't make any difference in that case, but certainly don't want him calling with King Queen or something like that. And then an overcard comes to your 8, you just don't know where you are anymore. You don't know whether he's got that overcard or not. Sometimes you just have to accept that you're not going to win too much with these pocket pairs. Well, we've got Mr. Perfect with the 10 jack. He decides to limp. He's given Shaky a little free look. And this is a simple bet here for Mr. Perfect. Very unlikely that's hit Shaky. He doesn't, he lets him in. Now he's got some interest. Now he's thinking, well, I could get a 5 here and I'll make a straight. So Mr. Perfect, he's got 2 chances. Come on, Mr. Perfect, put a bet out there. No, and he's hit his straight. Oh, that's been so passive by Mr. Perfect. Sorry, Mr. Perfect, that's some, I think maybe he's been multi-tabling or something. He had 2 great opportunities there to just take Shaky off it. Shaky showed him tremendous weakness. And he just didn't pick up on it for some reason. Now, that could be because he's either in auto robo mode, or it could be because he's perhaps playing lots of different tables and not really focusing that much on one particular one. And that's what I like from Shaky. He's got the flush draw. It's all he's got, so he decided that that's the best way of betting it. In fact, the best way of winning this hand was to bet it, and he did. Well done. That's the right way to play that particular hand. When you've got a flush draw, but your cards are under the hands on the board, then that's really what you want to do. It's a poor draw, and at the end of the day, you want to be betting out because you're flush. You're never going to feel that comfortable with that flush anyway. So this is a simple steal here for Ballar if he gets checked round to him. No, he doesn't want to know. And J Beam is probably feeling quite confident now. Now that they've both checked, he's thinking, okay, we haven't got a jack, you haven't got a 5. My 5 is probably good. So he's probably likely to call any bets from now on. Well, he's got now another overcard. So if the bet is big, he might get him to put down that 5. So if it's around 120, 140, J Beam might say no. Or of course he can just give it up. And he does. So they both give it up, and the cards play themselves. So we've got the big blind loving this now. Mr. Perfect, he's got a nice, strong hand in with the pocket kings, the second best hand in Hold'em. And he's really praying that someone starts putting in some raises, and he's got his wish. So very simple move for me here. Wants to put some more money in this pot, Mr. Perfect. Don't think he wants a call here. That is, I was going to say, that is not bad, not bad. 400 is about right. And he's likely to get all of Ballar's money now. Yeah, and oh, just to finish it all off, he's hit his 3 kings. So 3 kings beats 2 queens. In fact, 2 kings beats 2 queens. So unlucky there a little. Not really what you wanted. Ace, queen, you really prefer to hit the ace in that situation against the kings, but of course, once that queen came down and it was a queen high board, it was always going to end up in a very sad state. So a pair of 9s there, third pair for Monty. And he's wondering what Monty's wondering. Now, he likes that second card. That's helped him, that's made him feel a lot more comfortable. Golden Jaguar was on a draw. He's now not, so he's just going to fold this. Would have been interesting to see if a Golden Jaguar would have had a little go at it there. This could be curtains for Monty, though, because we've got pair against pair. And even Creamed Angel, Creamed Cage is getting involved here. Where did I get Creamed Angel from? I don't know. All the money goes in, and oh, he's hit the 9. Curtains for J Beam. Only 1 card to come, and J Beam doesn't get it. He's now down to the wire. Very unlucky there, J Beam. Big favourite. You're a 4-to-1 favourite. In other words, 4 times out of 5 you'll win that hand. 1 time out of 5, Monty. And Monty is that one to hit that 1 time in 5. Very unlucky. So it folds round to the blinds, and big blind gets a free walk. Shaky doesn't want to get involved. And they've only lost 1 player so far. Blinds are now 20-40. We're watching a $30 sit-and-go tournament. There are 3 prizes. First prize is going to be $120. Second prize, $72. Third prize, $48. Nothing for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th or 8th. And we can see that 8th place is now vacated. That's seat 3. So a few more to go out. In these tournaments, unlike cash games, the blinds do start going up. You get 10 hands, I believe it is. Every 10 hands they go up. Starts off 10, 20, 20, 40, and basically they just double after that point. And by doubling, it forces the action That means that we can now see people playing, because they've got to play because they can't stick around. So King 9, Ace 7. Oh, Ace is hit. So he's got a bit of a reprieve there.
Yeah, a little bit of playing money with another orbit of the table. How due to the blinds going up are we here?
They've just gone up, in fact. They're now 40, 80. I think they just went up this hand. So they've been holding on for dear life. He's on life support at the moment. Pair of 8s for Mr. Perfect. He's put out a bet and he's got called by the 8, but a bottom pair. I don't like the call there by Monty. Now, Mr. Perfect suggests that he likes that a bit more because he's now got a flush draw to go with it. And he's asked a question there. And Monty's given him his answer. So Monty now gets that big blind. And he better hope that a king doesn't come out on that board, not unless it's accompanied with a 5. Because Shaky's got him dominated here, which means that if a king comes out, he's likely to pay him some money. Now, Shaky's got the betting lead. Will he still have the betting lead? And he says no. Well, it's a split pot at the moment, so unless a queen appears, well, that's, well, or a king, in fact, so that helps as well. It's now kings and 6s with a queen. So he thinks he's hit it on the end there. And Shaky didn't quite work it out. He was a little bit worried about the potential 6 or 4 there. Ace 3 on the button for Mr. Perfect. Decides to raise. You probably get a look up from Cream Cage. He's got a nice hand himself, King Jack suited. And he's given the better a chance to bet, and he doesn't. So this is a good chance for Cream Cage now to have a go. And he doesn't. He's missed an opportunity. Well, he saw weakness from Mr. Perfect, and he didn't bet on it. Came round to the turn. The turn gave another 2. That couldn't have helped Mr. Perfect. So unless Mr. Perfect's got a monster. Okay, we'll just take one more hand and then we'll have a quick look at our multi-table tournament. Don't worry, you won't miss any of the action on this single table tournament. So just see what happens with this Jack 10 and Queen 9 before we do that. And there it is, Cream Cage takes it. So let's have a quick look at our multi-table tournament and see what's going on there. So we can see that we've joined it at the stage where it is, the blinds are 150, 300. And there's only 45 players left. So we've had, you know, from the original 128, I believe it was. So... and interesting situation because we've got a chipped leader who's got a little over 9,000, so he's looking pretty good at the moment. And with the blinds at 153, that means that he's got a little over 30 times the big blind. And a small stack is 622, so he's really on life support there. And top pair for Rich. There we are, man after my own heart. Puts in a bet with the 7-8, did have top pair. And takes it down, and he now moves to the dizzy heights of 8,600, which is pretty close to the chip lead himself, so he's looking pretty good. We can see Bunsky there, also with a nice strong stack, 8,000. And those two guys probably want to start avoiding each other, don't really want to get involved with each other unless they've got very strong hands, for the simple reason that they're the ones that can knock each other out. Whereas get involved with any of the others, and whilst they might do some damage, they won't be as bad. And in tournament play, it's quite useful to try and avoid the people that can do you a lot of damage. Well, AVM with the Jack 3 suited. How's he going to play this? He decides to have a little look, see if he can wangle it from him on the flop. Jack 3 suited, doesn't look too much here. He hasn't got many outs, so he might as well go have a little bet at it. This is the only way he's going to win. And he doesn't, so it gives the green light to Gimboyd, who's saying, no, he doesn't want to have a go at it either. Okay, well, he's given another go. He says, go on, AVM, you have a go. He now can win with a 5 as well, though, AVM. And he says, no, I don't want to win this pot. You have a go. And he says, okay, I will. Bit weak there, but he's put out, at least one of them's put out a bet. Gosh, I was wondering who wanted to win the pot. I don't think either of them did. With a board of 8-6-4, you've got to realise that it's unlikely that your opponent's hit something like that, or even if he has hit, that he's even going to be very confident with it. And if he is confident with it, then you can bank your life. He's going to be betting it out to protect it, but he didn't want to. Neither of them did, and Gimboyd eventually said, okay, I'll have it. Okay, so we'll have take this last hand and end up back to the sit and go that we were watching a moment ago. Don't think much is going to happen here. We've got one all-in player. Bunsky has to call, and he does. Well, he's got his flush draw, and he's hit his flush, so he's drawing dead. So Caesar takes it with his flush. So he got out of jail, that one. And back to the sit and go that we were watching a moment ago. As you can see, not a lot's changed. Blinds are still 40-80. Still 7 players. And all vying for that top prize of 120 bucks.
Hello, Mark. I've chosen to join you now again.
Oh, good.
The game's over. How's tricks down here?
Well, we've had a little look at the multi-table tournament, and that seems to be ticking along. We're down to 45 players now. And in this sit and go, it's been quite tentative, really. The players haven't really been chasing anything here, so they've been just quite happy to pass the blinds and stuff like that. So no one's really been aggressive, and of course, when that happens, all it means is that it's going to get to the stage of the blinds have just gone up to 81-60 or the next stage, and you know, it's going to force people to play. So they haven't played up to now, but they might start doing it very, very shortly.
Was this the game you were watching a moment ago? Was Jay Beam in that seat in a different game, or is this the same one that you've been on?
No, this is the same one, yeah.
Oh, right, okay, because he was down to 220 or something, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. So I don't know quite how he's done that, but he's done it somehow. But the looks of it, he's taken some of it off a Golden Jaguar. And if you'd like for me or Matt to read any of your questions live on air, there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can text the word poker to 84222, put your message in, and myself and Matt will read it out, or you can email the show, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you. And this is an interactive show, so these questions will get read out live on air. So if a particular problem you would like solved, or a particular question you'd like aired, those are the ways you get in contact with us. Well, we've got all sorts happening here. We've got ace-10 against ace-9 even. Cream Cage likes his ace-9. Gosh, he's actually called a double re-raise with it. I think that's a bad move, Creamed. I'm sorry. Regardless of what the outcome is, that's not good. Calling a raise and a re-raise.
Yeah, ace-9 has I got plenty of hands that...
Yeah, you'd rather be, if you're going to call in that situation, call with 6-7 or something. At least you know you're unlikely to be dominated.
Yeah, unless you have 2 live cards going into a battle for your life, but ace-9 is not likely to have been called by anything other than a stronger ace.
Yeah, and it's all over for the ace-9. 10's going to take this one. The ace-10, that is. And Creamed has been... gone into the poker abyss. Down to 6 players now. So this is where it starts to get a bit more interesting. The blinds are fairly hefty now, 81.60. Can't make any mistakes here, otherwise it's curtains. So King Jack raising it up, and he gets re-raised by Golden Jaguar. He says, if you can beat this, then just bad luck. Well, he's not only losing against it, he's get dominated. He doesn't want to see a 10, though. That will split this pot.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good Lord.
Dear. That's going to split it too.
What a horrid thing to happen.
So 2 ways of splitting that pot, and it happened. A 6 or a 10 would have split that pot, and Golden Jaguars would think, what do I have to do to win this? Well, he needs those 160.
Well, Golden Jaguar just had a dig at me about my jacket, which I don't think there's anything wrong with my jacket, but during my game he had a slight dig at the quality of my jacket.
What did he say about it?
Well, I won't go into the specifics, Mark, but he suggested that it was perhaps bought from a charity shop for £1, or some such insult. I mean, it's a jacket.
Yeah, well, the truth is he did actually pay £2.50 for it.
Exactly. Well, actually, it was on special. It was £2.20 because the 50 didn't look right in biro, and I managed to bully the old woman behind the till.
Oh, well, that's one.
Yeah, I put it through his expenses, you know. Ace 9. The cut off. You vicious, heartless Golden Jaguar. Good luck, mate.
Well, he's got Ace 9 here. He's wondering whether he should do it here. And I don't see why not. And he's playing too passive. I think you missed 2 opportunities there, Golden, to make a move. You needed that 160 on the previous hand. You could have done with his 240 if you happen to walk into a bigger hand, and it's just unfortunate. You know, you're in a situation now where it's sort of all or nothing anyway. The blinds are fairly high. There are still 6 players left, so it's not as if you're anywhere near the bubble situation. So this was about as good as opportunity you're going to get, I think. Might as well go out now, or if you go out now or in 5th, it makes no difference really. But he's being patient. He's waiting for another hand, and unfortunately, he's sit and goes. You can't afford to be too patient because these things do come round really quick. These blinds, and they do sort of make a short stack before you know it. So we've got percentage of pre-flop folds. You can see smooth cut is the tightest on the table. He's folding most of the time, 83% of the time, 17% of the games he's playing. And Monty 991, quite the opposite there, 43%. He's playing a hell of a lot of hands and likes to get involved. Worked out okay for him so far, and you'll like this. He's got 2 pair, and he bets out, and well, can't do anything for smooth cut. And Monty takes it down with the mother of all hands, 7-8. The amount of times we've seen 7-8 win today.
Really? I must have looked away at that point.
at those points.
Exactly at those points. Both stroke all through. No, I'm sure you're right. Hey, every hand's potentially.
There's one more than aces.
Yeah, I did see an aces get cracked a little bit earlier on.
Yeah.
Ace 10.
We won't even mention the 8s, of course.
Yeah, I think I've seen 8s win a few times, but you know, 8s, they're a fickle creature. I've not seen them for a while actually. I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention.
So maybe our viewers, I haven't heard any good 7-8 stories recently, so perhaps our viewers have got a 7-8 story that they would like to, sort of warm my heart with.
Yeah, come on, folks. It's it's Easter nearly practically.
Yeah.
Share the love with Mark. Give him a nice story. Make one up. Pretend that you once played 7-8 and it won.
Well, I need to pretend. Probably winning all the time with it.
Well, the thing is, of course, you've got to be playing it to win it.
Did you ever see that advert? It was for an advert. I won't mention the site, but it was for an advert where the guy's sitting down. It was about poker tells, but it was an advert for a particular poker site, and he's sitting down there at the table, and all of a sudden he gets up and starts dancing on a table because he's made his hand, and says, "Don't give your tells away that easily," type of thing. It's like the music comes on. And he starts...
I think I've seen it, or somebody else has told me about it, because I'm certainly familiar with it. But I don't remember actually seeing it. But yeah, I do know the one that you mean.
Well, you know what happened? They actually showed him the 7-8. The whole cards were 7-8.
Oh, really?
That's what happened. Yeah. I don't blame him for getting excited. It's very hard not to.
You must have jumped up out your sofa. All the chicken you had resting on your chest must have fallen down. You're running around in your socks, shaking your fist in the air.
You've just given us an insight into your sort of poker eating habits, mate.
Well, actually, Mark. Yeah, absolutely right. Sitting there with a big box of fried chicken on my chest and a wireless laptop.
So Smooth Cut is wondering whether his Queen high flush draw is going to be any good. We can see that it is if he hits it, but he's only got one card to come, and he's being asked too much, and that's a decent fold.
Well,
he did have a 10.
He had the straight as well, didn't he? He had the straight and the flush to go for, but I guess...
It was a bit too much, I think. It was going to put him down to 9.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to really kind of do any moves he doesn't feel comfortable with.
No.
J Beam, I reckon, is going to be an opportunity to... the bad news is that his biggest all-in still is only 360 to the big blind. Yeah, and Golden Jaguar makes a good fold there. I say it's a good fold, not because I can see the ace-king and ace-10, but you don't want to be calling, which is going to really put you in jeopardy if you do happen to be dominated in that situation. So we decided not to. It wasn't committed to that hand, and that's a decent fold. You want to be making a move with ace-10, you don't want to be calling with it. Not unless it's come to that break point, and that's not really the situation for Golden Jaguar, where he has to commit his chips on a call with ace-10. So Mr. Perfect says, I'm going to have a go at this. Smooth Cut trying a suited connector. He knows he's not going to be dominated in this situation. However, that's not a good flop for him. He needs now a couple of runners. That's one of them. He needs an 8 or a 3. Will it come? No, just missed. A spade flush draw just came a little bit too late. So the aces is going to take it. A pair of aces takes this one, and Smooth Cut is down to 520. Fortunately for him, Mr. Perfect had less chips, which means that Smooth Cut's still in the game. Now, will he put some more faith behind the 6-7? Let's have a look. He is. Wow.
I'm not sure I would have done it there, but I don't blame him. There's no too many right or wrongs here, really. Smooth Cut here is very much on the fence for me. If you make a move here or wait for your big blind, it's not a lot in it, is it?
No, exactly. And as you said before, talking about whether you make a move with those sort of cards, you're probably not going into... If anybody calls you, you're unlikely to go into it the best of it, but at least they're probably both live. You know, if you wait for ace-4 or king-9, you know, which a lot of people do, as soon as they got an ace or a king, they're all in. But, well, what are you likely to get called by? Somebody with a bigger, you know, a dominating hand. So 6-7, you never know your luck.
Needs running straight cards again. Needs a 5, a 4, a 9 or a 10 to sort of help him out a little bit here.
Yeah, it is Miracle Street, but...
It is, yeah.
Hey, it's poker. Well, that's going to get rid of Shaker. Well, there's one of them.
Yeah, 9 or a 4 now. We'll give him a straight. No, he's just missed out again.
Yeah.
Just a touch. And, yeah, don't think you done anything too wrong there, Smooth Cut. You could have waited one more hand, I guess, but it's neither here nor there. Really isn't. Just unfortunate.
Wow. Well, that's not the worst thing in the world to be sitting on the button with.
No. Well, he's had a couple of nice hands now, Monty. He's been the most active player at the table, as we saw earlier. And Mr. Perfect's wondering whether he should make a move with this King-7.
An interesting point to make here, which kind of not necessarily with the game, but we're seeing so many of these players in multi-tables. We're seeing some of these names in the multi-table tournament. We're seeing on the cash games. We're seeing them here on the single tables. Is that I think a lot of people, you see some of the forums, people talk about the reads they think they can get from the time people take to make their actions. But of course, it's very important when you're playing against people to try and get a feel for how many games they're playing. Because a lot of people are saying, you know, somebody that takes a long while before checking is trying to make it look like they've got a strong hand and that they're trying to work out what to do. A lot of the time, people are just busy with like 3-4 screens open. And it is worth just quickly investigating the site you're in and seeing if the player that you're sitting with is doing many more things, because you can probably guarantee if they're sitting and the only game they're playing is your game, they probably are thinking, they are concentrating, they're making moves. If somebody is actually sitting in 3 identical value cash games, they're probably just playing it by numbers. And it's, you know, people, the betting patterns certainly you can take a lot of information from, but the time they take, I really wouldn't get too deep into it, because you can end up, you know, misinformation is almost worse than no information. But these guys where their screen just goes ping and comes to the front and they just decide what to do with it.
Yeah. Do you multi-table when you play?
Yeah, I tend to, again, kind of based on the comment I said earlier on, because I find cash games not as stimulating. So I actually tend to have a cash game that I'm in for many, many hours, but I have lots of little tournaments that I jump in and out of as well. Just because I find that the tournament's more stimulating and I get a bit more creative with them. Whereas the cash games, it's a little bit more thoughtful and strategic and value-based.
Well, we're down to 3 now.
We're in the money.
Yeah, blinds are now 163.20. Always happens when the blinds go up around that level. You start seeing a bit of carnage, and sure enough, we've just had it. 6 down to 3 in a matter of minutes. And Golden Jaguar is the shortest stack out of the 3. And Monty is looking very pretty here. Will he be putting him under pressure? And got his first 2 act. Let's see if he puts him under pressure now. He does, and good plays there by Monty. Decides to make him play the flop rather than give him no decision pre-flop. Golden Jaguar will commit, I'm sure, on this hand. He does. And will Mr. Perfect like this? 320. Basically, it's going to be 560 for him to call, in effect. Does he want to call 560 more? That'll put him down to 680. If he loses this. So ace in the lead. Oh, could have a jack or a 7 or a club. No. So Golden Jaguar wins that one. And like I said, Mr. Perfect's down to 680. Although he'll probably be wondering what to do with this hand. Not anymore, it's pretty obvious. I'm saying wondering what to do because Golden Jaguar would have raised there, but I think he would have gone all in regardless. Didn't have that much left. And of course an automatic call with the Queen 4. And Ace 8 is still in the lead. Only a Queen or 4 will save. Nope, 3, 4, 5, 6. Unfortunately, nothing for 4 card straight.
Why not? I mean, why not? The number of people I play against and they go, look, I've got 6, 7, 8, 9. You go, and your point is? So maybe because so many people would like to see a 4 card straight, maybe you should get a little bonus.
Yeah. What about a 6 card straight? Do you get a bonus for that?
Yeah, or having 3 pairs.
So I've got a question for our viewers.
Go for it.
I'm going to have a question for our viewers, and I'd like to see how many of them know this. Now, I'd like you to do this without any searching on the internet, if we can. And the question is, which form of poker can you actually have 3 pairs in your hand? There you are.
Wow.
Now, I don't want of some obscure poker that no one ever plays, or they played it 4,000 years ago. It's a poker that is played fairly actively today. Which form of poker are you allowed to have 3 pairs in your hand?
And do you really think that anybody's going to reply that isn't currently scouring the internet? Do you have faith in the viewers?
Yes, I do. I believe they're an honest bunch.
It's a beautiful thing. Well, we've lost Golden Jaguar.
Yeah.
He deserved it, really. I mean, he got some money after the jacket comment, but, you know. I'll let him off.
That's a bit nasty.
Hey, he made the money. Good on him. No, I was... Hey, you know, I've been insulted by the best.
So, let's see if any of our viewers are familiar with this. Which form of poker are you allowed 3 pairs?
This isn't some homebrew... The Banin family would sit around the Christmas tree playing 9-card stud.
No, nothing like that. This is a game that is regularly played. Oh, I will say that it's probably not played a great deal in England, although some of the pros will know how to play this particular game. So it's not an obscure game that's totally obscure, but it is a game that is played. I think they were even playing it in LA.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so. I think there was a couple of times.
Well, there's a lot of uproar, isn't there, about the number of games that are kind of the variants that are dying out in the World Series. You know, they're bringing down the number of non-Hold'em games in.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that changing, Matt.
Monty, wahia! Wow, Monty there.
Yeah, takes it down.
He did the business there, didn't he?
He did do the business.
There was some good play out, Monty. I only kind of tuned in a bit later on in the game, but I didn't really see him put wrong.
So if you know the... Oh, there's a chip movement graph, so What do you reckon?
Well, I mean, look at Monte. I mean, I just said I didn't see him until the middle, and then he didn't seem to put a foot wrong. And in fact, that seems to be when he made losses, he was literally just letting go of blinds or making a speculative limp and giving it up. But
yeah,
I mean,
I like the way
lovely.
Golden Jaguar played there. As you can see, he had a little decisive moment there where he decided that I'm going to lose some of my chips on a gamble, and then he decided, okay, well, let's ram it all the way home so I can get third spot. So,
and
you can tell that by that graph, you see.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, great stuff. So, let me tell you about my little question I have for you. What game can you have that's fairly regularly played? Maybe not so much in England, but it is fairly regularly played, and it's not on a totally obscure game. However, what game can you have 3 pairs in? So, what game of Hold'em...
And you're not allowed to search the internet.
I said Hold'em, it's not actually Hold'em, but what game of poker, what variation of poker, where you can actually have 3 pairs? No looking on the internet, don't cheat, you lot out there. No naughty cheats. So I'd like to know. And the way you do that is by texting the show to 84222, text the word poker and your answer, and there it is on your screen. And also, as well as that, you can email the show poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. So, see if anyone knows. Okay, so let's have a little dip into our multi-table tournament to see what these boys have been doing. So, we're blinds are now 300, 600, so a bit of an increase. And I find that actually in these tournaments, these multi-table tournaments that we see, Matt, this is perhaps the only point where there is slightly less play throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
For some reason, it seems to just dip here a little bit, but then it goes back up. At the beginning, there's lots of play, even at any part of the early stage, and at this point, around, I don't know, around the 200, 400, 300, 600, 400, 800, it's a little bit less play, and then as soon as a few players get knocked out again, once again, there's tons of play again.
Yeah, and this is also, I find, the stage, and again, I mentioned this earlier on, we do seem to get quite a few questions come in where people say, you know, I can get to the middle stages of a multi-table, but I always seem to be short-stacked, and this is where you see the people that have been accumulating chips early. And that's why I don't think in today's modern poker game you can go to the old adage of, you know, you sit tight as a rock in the early stages. It's all about survival and you play your premium hands, because that, of course, assumes that 1, you get your premium hands, and 2, when you do, you get paid off. And I think that a lot of people fall into that category where they've had a couple of good hands that have kept them alive, but by the time you get to the middle stage, you need more than have just won a couple of genuine hands. You need to be accumulating chips, because you end up here with the guys that are up on the 7 grand, 8 grand mark, or you're down into the 2,000, 3,000 sort of like, oh my God, only a couple of blinds and I'm out of here. But I think you're right. It does, and I think the guys that have accumulated the chips appreciate that, and they know that there's pressure on the players just by the blinds, let alone their action.
Yeah. Yep, no, I agree with you on that one.
Oh, thank God for that, Mark. I thought we were going to have a fight.
No, not on that one. I'll save that for later.
No, it's Casper. Casper normally goes, sorry, but I totally disagree. And then it just kind of explodes from there, really.
Yeah. So you've got your sparring partner, Cass.
Cass? No,
I've got my sparring partner, James.
Well, the interesting thing is, it's, you know, and I think it's the beauty of Poker Night Live. You know, is you mentioned earlier on, you know, Casper's lots of live cash experience. Some of us, lots of online tournaments, and I think that's the whole point. Is that, you know, and it's one of Casper's saying, you know, there's no rules, just tools. Is that there is no one correct answer to any of these questions, because if you're playing poker and you're playing it successfully, well, then you've clearly got it right. Just because your version of right doesn't exactly mirror somebody else's. Yeah. That's why it's the game it is. It's not like, you know, there's one way to play poker, and the closer to being perfection, then the more successful you are. You get some crazy aggressive guys that do really well. You get some really solid guys that read Super System 16 times, and I think that's why it's the beautiful thing it is. But I think, you know, when we get these questions and you've got 2 people sitting here, 3 people sitting here, totally disagree with each other. Well, as long as they're all actually enjoying success, who wants, you know, you want to pick me up on my 8s, you want to play your 7-8 offsuit. It's like, well, we all enjoy success with what we play.
No, but that's just a fact, though, Matt. I've got to say, you know, it's just a fact, you know.
See, I was trying to make it a beautiful, embracing partnership, but just ignore me. Very cool. That's no small raise there. Pocket Kings picks it up. Best part of 10 grand for Ray Cool. Queen Jack suited. Is he going to fancy having a push here? He's got chips to play with. Gargoyle. That's a big old raise. 600 is the big blind, makes it 2,400 to go, and runs into queens. Queens that have now picked up a flush. Suited ace-9 is going to put half his stack in here. Jack-king suited, probably like that on the big blind, but that's a big move, and Jack-king he's got 600 in the pot, but he's actually got 8.5 grand. If he gets involved in this, he's out of position. And again, I always know we're saying the same things, but when people say, you know, how do I play jacks? How do I play ace-king? Is that it really depends on your position. They're suited king-jack in a different position with different action ahead of you on the board. You make your decisions, and that is a position there where king-jack suited is, you let it go. And that's the point, is that in that decision you're taking into account your position, as in you're going to have to act before your opponent. You're also looking at what's in the pot. You're looking at what you have to gain and what you have to lose. And there, maybe on another day, he'd be really happy in the big blind to see king-jack suited raised. But right now he can give away 600. It's not like he's got a few chips left. He's got best part of 8.5 grand, which is now boosted up again. But that's why take your time when you make these decisions, especially in live games. If you come out of, you know, the internet and go and play live, there's no time bar ticking down. Take your time and just have a look around. Have a think about where you are and what edge you've got. And I believe Rakell did the right thing there. It's a nice big juicy raise from the Queen-6 suited. Makes it easy for... So then, that's quite juicy stuff. We quite like that. There's some good play going on there.
Lots of good play. Lots of good play. Yeah. So lots of things going on.
Quite aggressive play as well. I think, you know, for the multi-tournament. Like we started off saying that middle stage of the multi-tournament can slow down, but actually some of the guys there got quite imaginative with things like Queen-6. You know.
Yeah.
So
well, the blinds are worth stealing at that point, aren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So should we do some emails?
Oui, monsieur.
Yeah. Go on in. I'll let you fire off the first one.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to throw one at you, Mark.
Okay.
This is an email from Ant-Man. Thanks very much for email, Ant-Man. Do keep them coming. Guys, great show as always. Can you tell me if 20 outs is the max you can have? Mark, is 20 outs the maximum number of outs you can have?
Is 20 outs? That's a good question. 20 outs the max you can have. I don't think it is. Let me just quickly work it out. Probably you need an up and down straight draw with 2 overcards, with a flush draw, which would mean 4-4. That's 8. No, I think that's, let's see, 4-4 plus 7, that's 15, plus 3 for the 10, 3 for the jack. So I would say it's 21, I believe.
Okay.
I think that's probably the best.
You could smell Mark's brain.
Thinking very quickly. 21. 21 is what my belief is at this stage, although I'll think about it more. If there's more than I can think of, then I'll let you know. But I can't
if anyone would like to work that out and present it to us in a beautifully crafted email, we'll mention your name.
Yeah, 21, I believe.
Shall I throw another email at you as we've suddenly swapped?
No, let's. How about I do?
See, I do
one now.
put Mark under the pressure.
Yeah, I just think you're looking for a night off. I think that's really what it boils down to. Okay, let me go for email from Dougie. And thanks for your message, Dougie. And he's saying, what kind of betting patterns do you look for when playing online, and how do you use this information to get paid? You sort of touched on this, didn't you, a moment ago?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's all sorts of different patterns that I would look for. The truth is you're looking for people, I mean, the stuff I look for, people that make very standard raises when they've clearly got a hand, they do the 3 times the blind, people that when they tend to limp in a lot on the small blind, but anybody that raises at them, they let it go, people that are limpers, because it's not so much the betting patterns, but trying to define what players you're up against. People that appreciate the river principle. I think there's a huge amount you can learn, and I think people that don't pay attention to the betting patterns are missing a huge amount of information. I think it was in reference to people saying about the time people take to make the moves. I'm not really buying into that, but certainly the moves they make, the way they react to other bets, anybody that also very online, very rare to see people re-raise. So I think there's a lot of information you can get, and your aim is to maybe pick on one player and try and see if you can get a label to his name. Make a note of it, because if you bump into him, you know this is a guy who plays it by the book. But that's it for me.
Okay, cool. So that's quite a concise answer there from Matt. I'll give you mine after the break. So see you after this. Welcome back to Poker Night Live with myself, Mark, Prince Charles Banin, and the one and only Matt Broughton. You well, Matt?
I'm very well, thank you. I love this big intro I get every time. I am the one and only.
Yeah, the one and only.
If there's any other Matt Browns out there want to email in and just telling me that I'm lying, then please do go ahead.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing will be to see whether you live up to your nickname, because we're about to see the Beat the Presenter tournament. So, I think without further ado, let's head over there.
Okay, well, prepare thyself. There I am.
There you are.
Proud in seat one. And what an exciting nickname I've got.
Well, look at this. This is a nice, interesting bunch of hands to start off with. Ace, King, Ace, Jack and Nines.
Yeah, I pretty much read them for that. Actually, I think I saw I had Queen 6 and just kind of clicked on the fold button, whatever occurs.
Yeah.
But, no, this is a good little bunch here.
Well, interesting. And QP holding no prisoners. Seen a raise and a re-raise, and Ryman is now thinking,
ooh,
maybe my nines is not so good.
Yeah.
And that was a disciplined fold there by Ryman.
Yeah. Because you can pretty much bet that you're going to end up just with these two guys and yourself if you call and you've got position on them, but you are really just hoping for the flop to hit you, aren't you? It's a lot of dosh to chuck in for the first hand of the tourney. Well,
Max Power says, if you can beat Ace King, I don't mind going out first hand of the tournament.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a chance. And he blasts that one through. He knows QP's a fairly aggressive player, can be raising with anything. He actually had a genuine hand there. And QP found out with minimum liability. And I quite like the way he actually played that hand. For the simple reason, the worst thing he could have done for me is actually calling with it. And then an ace hits on a flop, and guess what? He now loses all his stack. Yeah, so I thought he played it well. Well done to Mr. QP. So we've got King Queen, who's got an up and down. No, he's got an inside straight draw plus not a bad flush draw to aim at, plus a couple of overcards.
Yeah, that's good enough for me.
And that's the way you want to do that. You want to bet those hands out. You don't want to wait to hit your hand, because there's a better chance of you missing than it is of hitting. So why not bet it and try and win it that way?
8-2 for myself, not worth getting too excited about.
No.
Mr. Squirrel. Big slick in the small blind.
So he's announcing that he's got some kind of hand, and Robo's saying, I've got one too.
Surprised Robo didn't make a push back there.
Yeah, I think it's possibly because it's only the first couple of hands, and that's a weak bet. Now, Robo reading for that weak bet, because if he's got jacks, queens, kings, he's unlikely to make such a weak bet like that. So the only reason he might make a weak bet like that is if he's missed or he's hit a monster. And Robo worked it out perfectly. Well done. Nice play, Robo. Very nice indeed. He read that for what it was, a weak bet. He says, OK, let's see how much you like this. Take this. So, very strong play there by Robo. I like it.
Yep.
Good bit of poker being played there. And I think Grand Champs just needed to make that a little bigger. He needs to put some oomph behind it, and unfortunately just told him that he was weak.
Max Power's picked himself up 2 pair on the flop, but Ryman's got himself top pair and a juicy little draw.
Oh dear, he's not going to give this one up, is he? 2 pair. This is curtains, isn't it? For one of them.
I think yes. There's no way he's going to let go of that, is there?
No. And it doesn't arrive, so the 2 pair holds up. So we have Max Power, who takes a strong lead.
Yeah,
and Ryman was a bit unfortunate there.
Yeah, I think only the 5th hand or something there. But there are going to be hands like that, aren't there, where no one's going to let go of it.
Yeah, they both had good hands, didn't they? 2 pair against top 2 pair against top pair and a nut flush draw. And these kind of comps, I think it's inevitable what's going to happen. So, and it did. So quite tight. I don't know what he's. Oh no, he's on the big blind. So I was getting confused there.
About to leave.
And look at QP making a move. QP. So makes a move with 4-2 suited. Well, he read it well, and he's decided that Max Power, if he had a hand, he'd be raising himself. He's only got to be quite tight. So, and he'd done it well. So well done, QP. So King 9 for fishing for chips. Wondering whether his second pair is good, and I like the bet. Would have liked it to be a bit more, to be honest with you, because that doesn't really tell you a great deal. Once again, it does look weak fish. And Max Power could be doing that with anything. If he read you for a weak hand, we saw Robo do it a moment ago with just a couple of overcards. If he read you for a weak hand and he says, well, let's raise you, because you're just asking to be raised in that spot.
And I can assure you, any time within the next hour I will play a hand. It's due any time now soon. It won't be this, I don't think.
No.
Not in the face of a raise.
Quite tight. Not being that tight, decides he wants the 30 in the middle. And fish for chips, he'll say goodbye to this. Yeah, he doesn't. I blame him. It's a rubbish little hand. Queen 4 or whatever it was, Queen 5. So he just gets rid of that.
Yep, it's a nice move and runs into a pair of uninteresting hands and gets the money. Not much in the middle, but...
You've got a monster.
Yep, I like 5-9 offsuit on the button.
That's not to play. And, well, that's looking pretty good for Max Power. He's got one overcard. He's got the nut flush draw. Well, another weak bet there, but he got away with it. He was basically trying to say that he had more than what he had by limping in under the gun.
Ace 10 for Max, just flat calls a big blind. 4-10 for myself. Don't believe I'm likely to get involved in that.
No. Jack 2. Well, he's caught a bit of that.
I would have had the 4. I mean, kicking myself now, obviously.
Yeah, and Robo, I think he got caught in two minds there, whether to bet or not. And
yeah, the 2's
for the 20, he'll probably just release it, I think. He's thinking, well, you know what, I've got such a crap hand, and 3 diamonds out there, forget it, I don't want to get involved with this.
There's not really much reason to stick around in there, even for the minimum bet.
No, I don't think so. Well, QP, he's got one of my favourite hands, 7-8 suited. And Matt is putting in a little raise there. What was with the minimum raise there, Matt?
Do you know what? I think it was just because I haven't played a hand yet, and I just thought I would see if I could get some action.
Well, we got middle pair against top pair.
And I was aware that anyone that calls, I've still got position on. Other than that, it was really just to see if anyone wanted to fight. 7-8, did not fancy it.
No.
Sweet irony that it turned out in your hand, but
yeah.
I didn't realise that at the time.
QP of little faith. I thought QP had, a lot of faith, but he didn't. He ran out of faith. Yeah,
I don't. Do you know? I wish I could remember why I decided just to double the blind rather than do anything with it. I think it was just trying to throw out a random shape so that no one kind of really. They think you're slow playing it or just being. I quite often, especially when there's a box you can type numbers in. I quite like to raise really ludicrous numbers just because.
Oh, you're one of these players, are you?
Well, I find a bit like myself. I know that I'm looking for patterns, so when I bet, I try and make sure that whenever I make moves, I'm generally a little bit hard to sort of really take much. I don't tend to make specific. Sometimes I double the blind when I know it should be 4 times. Sometimes I make it 4 when I know I should flat call. Just because if anyone's paying attention, they shouldn't get too much information out of my bets.
Okay, interesting.
That's about it. I make a silly call here, as I recall.
A silly call? Well, let's see. Let's see how
it gets raised up, and I really.
Well, I think I call it.
I think I call it with my fingers crossed. But that's the whole point. Is I know we're heads up, so I'm thinking, well, okay. But the truth is, if I was going to make that call, I'd really rather have some more people in it because then I'm more likely to get paid off for it. So that's why I would consider it silly. Is I think heads up. One, I'm crossing my finger, then I hit, and even if I do hit, I don't feel I'm going to get much value for it.
Yeah. So Max just follows it through with a continuation bet and takes it down. And Mr. Broughton there had a little lead there. Difficult, though, to play those 3s out of position once you've got... Well, in fact, he only had 2 overcards in that case against you, but still...
Yeah, there's I think a little bit of just wanting to get involved, but it wasn't a huge raise to me, but it was... I didn't, in retrospect, I'm not in a great position, I've not got a great hand, and I'm not really likely to get much value out of it, even if I do hit, which there's a great chance I'm not going to hit.
Well, 7-8 offsuit for Robo, doesn't want to know. Max Power with a Jack 9, probably throw this away. QP throws his, quite tight throws his, and Matt Broughton. Is he going to make a little steal here on the button with his 8-3 suited?
I don't think I am, I don't know, actually. I'm clearly thinking about it. I think I just don't want to look stupid, which is that added pressure. I think I was getting quite a lot of
well, what do you make of
abuse
that?
in the check.
Fishing for chips, had ace 4 or something, had ace high, and he threw it away in the small blind.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a strange one there for fishing. I've been calling him Grand Champ. It's actually Graham P.
Oh, yeah.
I've added a few years to you. Sorry about that, Graham.
Yeah, that's Graham P from Blackpool. 2 queen, another big hand for myself.
Are we going to see you play some hands? I mean, this is watch the presenter, not beat the presenter.
Yeah, well, I did mention I hope everyone else had far more interesting hands that we could talk about, because I had some fine 5-2, 6-3, 7-4 action. It's funny also, it's a bit like one of the other games I have where when you look down again and see junk, you think, right, well, I'm going to make a move on the position here. And then somebody makes a big raise before you, and all of a sudden you realise you've lost that momentum that you need. And we talk about how important it is to actually take the initiative with the betting, and how hideous it is when you've decided, right, I'm going to make a move, and somebody makes the move before you. Because now you have to consider, are they making the move as you identified, or do they actually have a hand and you're about to make a fool of yourself? Jack Queen, worried, Jack King, shall I say, thinking about it. The 9s that Ryman didn't play earlier. From Trondheim. 5-2 suited, another big hand. Into Ace King. Can't imagine he's likely to see too much action here. Even to the big blinds, too expensive. Six-2 suited for me, followed by Ace King, followed by Queen Jack. That raise might be enough to push Graham off. It is. Max will have a tickle in the cutoff. 6-2. I can't imagine I'm likely to stick around for that. Nice big move post flop from Fish and Chips. Fishing 4 chips, should I say. Jack 2 offsuited. Ah, memories, happy memories. Ace 9 makes up the big blind. Fishing for Chips has the option and just checks it through. Fish picks up the bottom pair, just checks it. See if Max wants to prod at it, which he does. No, thank you. Max has got himself a little lead here, up to 2.5 grand. And welcome to my 7-4 offsuit. Again, very exciting for everyone concerned. Max gets the Ace King. Why is everyone getting Ace King? Where's my Ace King? And the blinds tick round. 2 Jack offsuit. I'm going to stop reading out my hands because they are just junk. Graham with the small blind. Is he going to limp, or is he going to make a move, or is he going to give it up? Just gives it up. Discipline fold. Don't feel you have to keep paying just because you've got the small blind. That's not an investment you can control, and don't let it put pressure on you. Ace King. I'm going to give up my A6, and jolly glad I did. Well, I think Robo's going to make the best of this move. Graham's gone in with King Jack to find King Ace behind him. Only a Jack can save you now, Graham. And there it isn't. And we see Robo take all of Graham's chips. Graham goes out, the second person to leave us. I've got 7-2 offsuit. And Fishing has got pocket rockets, and he's going to run into QP with 8s. Max is just going to try and limp. QP going to run into monsters. My 8s, my favourites versus the pocket rockets. Fishing's got 100 left. And QP needs a miracle. And we lose another. So I'm glad. I think I've played one hand, and already I've gone 3 spots up in the money, and I've got 5-6 offsuit. It's not quite 7-8, but it's close. There you are. percentage of played hands won. So half of the hands I've played I've won. Probably a bit misleading considering I've only played, I think, one. Well, I've obviously played 2 hands and won one of them. Quite tight, winning 100% of his hands. How could I have won 50% of my hands if I'd only played one? Let me think about that comment again. Could have been a split.
Oh, look at that. I blinked for a moment and it's carnage.
Yeah, you're there scribbling away your homework. Look at me. Short stacked. Queen 10. I really don't remember if I like this or not. I think I just try and limp in here, and I think they let me limp in. Fishing's got the best of it with ace high, but he gets out of it, and in fact Robo hits his jack. And something he said in the checkbox, in the chat box, should I say, I think he taunted me, which I just
did he? That's
smelt
not very nice.
as I think is, you know, some people, the whole kind of, yeah, when they show strength it's because they're weak, but actually I thought, do you know what, I see you for the jack. And he actually did show the jack, so it's not a surprise for me to see the jack. 6-7 suited. There you go. Finally, I'll make a move.
Oh.
275 for a specific amount there. Ace 10.
Well, he hasn't seen you make a play yet so far.
Well, exactly. I was abusing my rock-like. I thought they either think I'm a complete rock or they realise that I actually have had really, really random rubbish hands. Another one of which is there presented before you. 8-3, which I didn't fancy making a move with everyone trapped behind me.
Yeah, you haven't had many really situations, have you, that you can maximise? It's one thing having bad cards, but there hasn't been really situations either.
Absolutely, and that's what I was saying, is there were a couple of cards I looked down at that didn't like, but thought, well, I might be able to make a move here. But then quite tight would make a raise before me, so then I have to give it up.
Yeah.
I kind of, apart from those 3s, I've been pretty much disciplined and just waiting for a situation, but as you say, sadly not coming. Here's Robo and Max are going to bump into each other. I've got no say in the matter because I'm already the big blind for 160, but these 2 guys, I believe, sort of get their wallets out, and I'm just thinking, quite tight, I believe, gets out of this.
Yeah,
I don't have lock horns with him out of position.
Well, he folds the 8s. What do you make of that? Incredible
that's
fold.
Very disciplined. I think Robo had hit a number of big hands in a row, and also he'd just been taking people's chips, so he was building up a nice little run. Queen 9 on the small blind for me, and I've got ace queen before me. Again, and I think this is one of those situations I'd actually decided I was going to make a move here. And then quite tight made it 480, and all of a sudden it's all of my chips just to make a move, and I have to give it up. So just one of those games, to be honest. No real complaints about the way people played, and here's a 5-3 offsuit for you on the button. Just, sorry, but even short stacked, I'm just, again, seeing the people's cards. I'm glad I didn't, because they both got far better hands than my 5-3 off.
Yeah, it's a 3 card straight there.
Does that count?
Cool, there you could have hit a 6.
Followed by 7, give on. I'm just hoping.
Or a 5 or a 3.
Exactly. Well, I've got outs.
You've got lots of outs.
So many outs.
Will it get down to that stage? Although he can't call, can he? No. So we're not going to see the last card. Wow.
I'm glad, really, just in case it hit. And this, look, Jack Ace. And what's in front of me? Pair of kings. He just flat calls it. So I go all in.
Huh.
And all I've got to worry about is the fact that I get called by suited King Jack, and quite tight with his pocket kings. The Cowboys, he goes all in. Of course, I'm out of the play because my chips are all committed. And I'm surprised here that Max Power actually calls, which is horrible for me because I've got even more people that can beat me, but flops the 3 of a kind. I don't manage to improve, and I'm sorry to say that I must have played 4 or 5 hands there. I made one move, but
and then got shafted.
Yeah, there's not really much I can sort of reflect on, because I just, as you say, one, I didn't really get too many hands, and 2, even when I didn't get hands, I never seemed to be in a very good position. So everyone gave me lots of ribbing, and I'm more than happy to accept that ribbing because I didn't really get that involved in the game. But one of them.
Yeah, no, not a lot you could do there, really.
No. Sorry about that, folks. Not too many interesting lessons to be learned there. Apart from make really strange amounts when you bet, and everyone will stare at you and put question marks in the chat box. And as the game ticks over, I have to ask Mark, because I'm intrigued. You're really scribbling away lots of very intense maths formulas and things. I'm quite scared by what's going on.
No, I'm just double checking some of the things that our viewers have responded to.
Excellent.
So just making sure I have proper answers for them.
Oh, this is juicy stuff. I'm scared by the figures I see before me. And Max has gone all in with A6, which is very good compared to 10-2 for Fish and Chips, who, if they thought he was stealing the blinds, he wasn't really. 10 Queen suited, which I had a bit earlier on, but somebody made a bet before me. Fish and Chips should make a move here. I would do. If only I'd played, you'd know that by now. My online name is The Whiner.
Yeah,
it was so unfair. No, I'm fine. I'm fine, really. I'm just going to go off and sulk. Robo Squirrel gets himself an 8 and an ace. Dominates Max, but Max not going to play anyway. Robo continues to eat chips. Fishing for chips, pair of 4s. Puts half his stack in. Makes power with the A6. It's half his stack as well, and he's out of position, and he gives it up. And Fish, more than happy, I'm sure, to just take the 240 in blinds. And of course, we're here on the bubble, and Max Power really clinging on there. Fishing for chips, not too many more chips than he, but we're about to see the big blind come round and clock Max Power in 2 hands time for 160. So he's about to lose about a third of his chips just by passing through the blinds if he doesn't get involved in these hands. Ace 2, does he want to take the initiative? He does, safe in the knowledge that the next hand's going to clunk him for the big blind where he can't control it. I'm sure he's delighted to pick those up, because now this big blind doesn't hurt so much because it feels like you've just stolen the finance. Ace Jack, well, I did that, mate, and it didn't work out so good. I think you're going to be a bit more fortunate than I am.
Yep, I think he is. Not much there to fight against.
I say Max Power's just stolen the big blind in the previous round, so can philosophically let that go. Kid himself, he was paying for the blind with somebody else's money anyway. But he's pretty much where he started the entire game. King 6 does have the best of quite tight. And see, 2, 4 and 5 are pretty much equal in chips. On the blinds of 160 and 320, they're all going to be feeling the pressure. Pair of 6s, King 5 suited, fishing. Surprised? No, it's the bubble. I guess people play differently on the bubble. Well, that's not too subtle. What you going to do with that, Max? Ka-ching. Ace 8 does indeed call him down. Going to need to see an 8, but the Jack has knocked that out. He had the straight draw. But Robo Squirrel is crippled and must now fear that. He is going to be the bubble boy. He's got 200 to play with. He's got to go all in. And, I mean, it's just unlucky that he does run into Ace Queen. Going to need to see the straight complete. Beg your pardon, there isn't one, but he picks up an ace, an 8. I remembered him surviving because I was still watching the game, but he's still only got a couple of blinds in him, so he makes a move with 4s. He's going to be unhappy to see it running into the Ace King. Quite tight to get out of the way. Let's find it out. Only a 4. Sorry, only an ace would save Max, ace or king, but the 4 comes down for Robo. The king is a bit too late. And it's at this stage that everyone's typing in, why won't you die? Robo gives up pocket 6s there. Surprised by that. Fishing for chips is probably all ready to get quite busy with ace-king. That's the thing here, obviously, on these single table tournaments, the blinds are going up every 10 hands. And as you get down to short-handed, we're seeing less and less flops. So the blinds are ticking up quite quickly. Pocket eights, get in there, son. There you go. I know I'm grasping with my pocket eights, but you know.
You are.
Any victory is a small victory. Robo's not going to stick around for that. Max, they're small and suited. These boys are just bouncing the blinds around here. Fishing for chips though, that big blind is a big chunk. An ace-9 suited is probably good enough for him. Robo Squirrel's taking the initiative. Is he really going to let this go? No. And there's a 9 for your troubles. Will he survive? Robo's going to need to hit, but doesn't. He's still got 60. He's not entirely dead, chipping a chair and all that. But queen or a 4. He's going to see Robo exit. He lives. And again, he's only just got enough to get involved, but not even make up the small blind. Pair of 4s are quite tight. I'm surprised to see him throw that away. And Robo's hit something again, but so has Max. And finally, after hanging on and hanging on, Robo fabulously bubbles, but he certainly did get his money's worth there. And now these boys are in the money. But these sit and goes, top 3 get paid up, 50%, 30%, 20% of the fund. And fishing. I wonder if he would have played that so aggressively when there was still the bubble to burst. All in, and he's decided, I've had enough of this game's gone on far too long, I'm taking over. And Max, this is the last cheap hand he gets, and good news is it's ace-10. Next hand would have seen 2/3 of his chips get sucked into the pot before he could make a decision. The hearts are scary. Both have a pair of 9s. Max has got the ace and the 10s on top of that. 10-4 is going to throw away. All in ahoy, says Fishing. These boys are hanging in there. Suited with an ace. I think Max is going to take this option to go all in. Be surprised if he doesn't. Quite tight, get out of the way. It's a small pair for Max, but it's something to hang on to. Only a king or a jack's going to spoil it. Ends up with 2 pairs, aces and 3s. 3,800. And now quite tight all of a sudden. He's going to have to make a move with his 4s. At least it's a pair. Will he get called though? I think he might. A couple hundred extra. 5 is the only card that can hurt him, but his 4s hold up. Jack 9, it's an old friend of ours, and he's all in. He's actually run into 2 big hands, Queen, King, and Max thinking, I mean, that's a money-motivated move there by Max, because Max had a big hand as well, but decided to just sit back and possibly move up in the money. As it goes, that could still be the case, because quite tight is running low. The blind 640, 1280. Four will give him the straight. 5 will give him a pair.
That'll do.
They're just hanging on, aren't they?
They are.
It's amazing with the blinds. The fact that the big blinds generally means that everybody that's the big blind is all in. Quite tight a minute ago was about to disappear from the game. Now he has the option to sit back and watch some other people fight it out. The flush draw for Max. The ace is still good. The 9 on the river. Kick in the teeth for Fishing for Chips, who's now got 80 pence left. Ace King for Max. Hits himself trips. Fishing for Chips is drawing dead. He picks up third prize. Well done, mate. Certainly went the distance to get down to three-handed. A couple of hands into the 640, 1280. It's pretty much a roll of the dice now. Quite Tight's decided to give up a massive blinds just to wait for a stronger hand. 2-7 is not the stronger hand he was waiting for. Max decides to do the same game. It's going to be a case of somebody will make the move and somebody decide to go for it. He might throw this away, but they're suited. Running on out chips. 2-5 is also suited, but gives it up. (3-7). This looks like one of my hands, but he's decided to not go all in, but make a big move. King 9. It's good enough for me, to be quite frank, with already a third of your chips in. He's thinking. Gives it up. Now he's going to do it. An ace at last. Max goes for it. He's picked up the flush draw, but Quite Tight's got the nuts draw.
Oh, both hit the flush, eh?
Absolutely, and got to be gutted to see the king. The only card you got to fear with the flush is the ace, and your opponent's holding it. And now he's down to 480 with 4-7, a classic Hold'em starting hand. 19 Jack Queen King. Well, there you go. That was amazing, really, how long they existed at that blinds level. Because nearly always, you see, by the time it gets there, it's all or nothing. Well, look, there, Mark. Enjoy my chip movement. I did nothing, and then died.
That's pretty. That's a pretty feeble-looking
that's hideous.
Pipe cleaner, isn't it?
That is one of the nastiest pipe cleaners I've seen. But it's interesting to see some of our other guys.
That looked like limp.
I'm so not proud of that. That's a horrible pipe cleaner.
Yeah.
But I think the truth is, again, thinking about the hands, I've got a funny feeling that it's going to be very hard for me to imagine going back and playing those hands and really doing much more with it. Because every time I thought, oh, I'll just make a move on position, somebody beat me to it. I just think that's one of those games where I really can't imagine what else I could do with that. But there you go. God bless those pipe cleaners. So meantime, I am totally intrigued to know what you've been playing with. Are you going to share with me your deep inner thoughts?
It was actually noughts and crosses.
Oh,
yeah, I was lying.
You've been drawing pictures of ladies again, haven't you?
I have. Don't tell everyone that. So we've got some emails to do. Let me give you a quick reminder, though, of how you can get in contact with the show. If you'd like to contact the show and have me or Matt read any of your questions out or your points of view, you can do it in two ways. First way is by texting the show. Here it is on your screen. Text the word poker to 84222. Put your question in or your point of view. Also put in your name at the bottom, and me and Matt will read it out live on air. And second way of doing it is you can email the show, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. There it is on your screen. Don't forget to put your name in there. And it should be an interesting sampling, because we've got quite a few emails building up. So are you ready, Matt?
I am.
Okay, here we go then. Right. Okay, this is one from Sam, also known as Lumas. Okay, Lumas 2K4, if I'm not mistaken. So he's asking us to rate his play. Are you ready? This is a tournament scenario. Thanks for your message, by the way, Sam. I'm on the final table of a tourney with a prize pool of $6,000. Nice one. 300 people started, and blinds are a massive 6,000. So $70 goes to 10th. And this is an important part, isn't it? Because that can affect the way you play, doesn't it? The prize pool.
Absolutely.
If it's obviously top heavy, then you might want to take some chances earlier on.
Yep.
So anyway, $70 go to 10th, all the way up to first, which gets $1,400. Okay, so a nice increase there, and it will suggest that it's fairly top heavy in that scenario, I think. So average stack is 50,000. I'm on about 40, in fourth position out of the group of 10 players, I believe. So not so much play left in the tourney when I get jacks on the button. A guy with a similar stack raises to 24,000, and I fold. Well, I don't think you fold, do you? That's the thing. No. I think it's risk-taking time with jacks.
Yeah, yeah, and his... Yeah, I mean, the truth is, actually, you know, I really remember, I always come back to a conversation I had with Mark in one of the very first shows I actually did with Mark, and we were talking about throwing away strong hands to gain position. And the comment you made, which always struck me, is when I play to win. I don't play to make the money or to move up a position. I'm playing to take first place. And I think in that situation, I think if you get jacks, if you're that deep into the tournament, I think jacks on the button is a hand that you've got to play to maximise chips, even in the face of a raise. And we've seen some of the...
And a re-raise, by the way.
And a re-raise, OK. I mean, the truth is, one, it's scary because people are coming at you. What hands might you put them on? Put them on pocket pairs, put them on, you know, our ace, king, ace, queen, our familiar kind of, you know, big hands that people make moves with. But the truth of it is, I mean, one thing is when you're playing in a tournament, you talk to any of the big tournament players and they will tell you you've got to accept that if you're going to play in a big tournament, you are going to get into races. You have to accept you're going to need to get through a number of races and come out the other end of it. And to be on the button in that situation with jacks, I think you've got to play to win. Folding it there and imagining that you might survive a bit longer and move up in the money. I'd refer you back to Mr. Mark, Prince Charles Banning's move, which is you've got to play to win, and I can't say that I think folding jacks there, because the good news is even though there's lots of money at you, there's some great money there in the pot, and if you do take this, that's going to put you in a really strong position to dominate that table. Folding, I mean, I don't know what you end up with. I don't know if we know what the end of the hand is.
Well, there was one thing that I did neglect to mention, was that another short stack after that guy goes 24,000, and a short stack went all in. So the initial razor stowed nines, my jacks would have held up. And I don't think it's a case of whether your jacks would have held up or not. That's not the important issue. The important issue is you've got to remember that you've got jacks. First of all, that's the fourth best starting hand in Hold'em. Yeah, forget about your ace king suited and all that. Jacks is your fourth best starting hand in Hold'em. Okay. Now, if they happen to have one of the three best starting hands, for a start, the short stack doesn't really matter because you still have some chips left over anyway. However, what it does matter is whether the original razor has better than that. And if he's got better than that, then it's just bad luck. It's as simple as that. You are going to need a situation where I think moving up to eighth, for argument's sake, by one or two players getting, well, one player getting knocked out, and eighth, or in fact ninth, will be what? What's that going to be? $85? You know, it's not going to be that much more, is it? Yeah. $90, $110. Whereas there's a big difference between, you know, getting a $90 and getting $1,400. And whilst that doesn't guarantee you that you get $1,400, you'll end up with potentially you're playing for about 125,000 in your, you know, your 50,000, the other guy's 50,000. The short stack, let's assume he's got 25, plus the blinds, in fact, so you're ending up near enough about 140, 145,000.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I say. The point is, even though there's a raise and a re-raise, and you've got to put them on the hands, and actually, there you go, you're saying it's ace, queen, and nine, so it's pretty much the hands you would put those players onto. There's a great pot there just waiting to be taken, and jacks, even if you went into that race the underdog, which you wouldn't have done, but not knowing that, it's still a hand with plenty of possibilities, and I totally agree with Mark. I think that's a hand you've got to play. You've got to maximise your opportunities to win, because you hit that, you're in such great shape to continue and move up the positions. I never like to try and move up positions by sitting back. It's like, again, Mr. Banin said it to me very early, you've got to play to come first, because that's the big money. We see it even in our multi-tables. It's not a huge game going on there, but those top three spots are where the real payback comes. You don't want to just get in the money. You don't want to just get in that first bit, because you've played for X amount of time, you've got through a few hundred people. You don't want to just like get twice your buy-in. You want to go for the big payoffs, and I think jacks is a hand you've got to play aggressively, regardless of what action happens before you.
Yeah, and of course, don't forget, Sam, the important thing in all of that is you're really only playing against one player. And I say the reason the reason I'm saying that is because if the short stack happens to have aces, kings, or queens, let's say, you've still got a side pot to play with the other guy, which could put you back to your original stack anyway. So that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the chances, again, we see it so often, the chances of everybody having monsters. Pair of nines is great in that position. Ace queen is obviously playable and people go for it. But it's not like everyone's got, you know, there's kings versus aces versus jacks. It's everyone has a chance of winning that pot, and you don't because you're not involved in it and you've given up that action. So,
yeah. Do you want to do one, Matt?
Yes. Shall I throw one at you?
Go on then.
You want me to throw one at you that you've been calculating, don't you?
Not really.
No?
Not really,
okay.
I don't mind.
Okay.
Whatever one you want.
All right. Okay, well, let me throw one at you. Okay, so this is an email from Dave. Thanks very much, Dave. I was just wanting to ask you something about limit poker, which we spoke about a little bit earlier on. I used to play only limit poker cash games at the The 50-cent $1 level mainly is sometimes a level lower. I used to do okay at this, wasn't really a losing player, but didn't make huge profits either. I then started playing quite a lot of tournaments, no limit, and since then my limit game has suffered. I don't seem to be doing as well anymore, and I'm wondering why. I don't know whether this is purely to do with changing my game to accommodate for no limit tournaments or not. Could it also be the fact that my game has taken off since I started playing tournaments? My knowledge has advanced a lot, and maybe I haven't really played much limit since gaining more knowledge with all the variance that comes with it. I also find that low limits that I play are just really weird. This is something actually we spoke about earlier on. Players going all the way to the river with all sorts of strange hands, and it's hard to get them off. What would you suggest I do to improve the situation for myself? It's not something I necessarily agree with, but what would happen if I played a couple of games at the higher limit? What do you suggest? So we've got a guy that starts off as a limit player, doesn't lose a lot but doesn't win a lot. Now that he's got into the no-limit tournaments, he's finding his limit game has changed. What are your thoughts on that?
Certainly not to go. My first and immediate thought is certainly not to go at the higher limits. If you're not being able to win at the lower limits, then there's no reason why you should be able to win at the higher limits. That's the thing. It's a bit of a fallacy to think that you can, okay, if I don't win at lower limits because everyone keeps going all the way to the end, then by all means you might want to just get out of that game, move one limit higher, but you certainly don't want to play at anything much higher than that because end up costing you a lot. If you're not doing that well at one limit, it doesn't necessarily mean that you do well at another limit. Can do, but you know, it's very, very risky, so I'd watch that definitely. In terms of what I think's gone wrong, it probably in no-limit tournaments you generally have to play a more of a wide variety of hands. It forces the action, so it means that you are going to play a wide variety of hands. Your hands like your ace-kings, your ace-queens are much more important in no-limit tournaments than they will be, especially as the later stages, more so than you know, the hands like you are playing in limit. Now, the thing to remember is this. In the limit, you're playing more of a drawing game, whereas in no limit, you're playing less of a drawing game. And of course, then there's in the middle, you have pot limit, which is sort of a hybrid, a mixture of both. And the thing to remember is that you have to play each one according to their strengths. Now, an ace-king in a no-limit game, later on in the game, can be pretty strong. In a limit game, ace-king is not that fantastic for the simple reason that, you know, you're going to be playing up against 4 or 5 people, and generally it won't hold up. You know, it won't give you, you know, better than average odds of winning. So it might give you the overall chance of winning compared to some of the other hands. However, when you're playing against 4 or 5 people, you're now a severe underdog to winning the pot, you know, overall. So I think that's the thing you've got to remember. It is more of a drawing game in limit, and you might have adjusted your starting strategy and your starting hands according to that. What I would suggest, if you are going to play limit and you want to go back to that, just tighten up, and I think you'll find that will change quite a lot.
Yeah, I think another thing to maybe experiment with, if you've not played any pot limit, because the reason I say a lot of people kind of ignore pot limit, they're either playing limit or they're playing no limit, is if you're initially a limit player, you're used to seeing flops, because obviously you can't really push people off flops that much with a limit, because people will stick around. As you said, quite rightly, people will call with anything right to the river to see what they hear. But with pot limit, if you're used to playing after the flop, then that's to your advantage. And with pot limit, unless there's a load of people involved, there's not even the possibility to make the pre-flop money huge and scare people off. So you will get lots of people getting involved as if it was limit. But of course, once you get down past the flop, if you're enjoying success in the no-limit tournaments, that would suggest to me that it's because of the aggression and because of the pressure you're able to put on people in no limit. You still have that element in pot limit. You can get into flops cheaply, be a bit more speculative as you would with the limit games. But then when you do want to start forcing people, because that's what I find frustrating in limit, is that I know that I'm kind of stuck playing my cards. If I want to make a big move, all I can do is make the raise, the limit raise. And a lot of people will just see that as an investment to take drawing hands. With no limit, we know that if we sense weakness, we go bang, half my stack or all in, and you're putting that pressure. With pot limit, you can get that balance between the two games. It is a very different game, but that's something I've been doing, because I was getting frustrated with the limit games. I thought, well, I'm going to play around with the pot limit. It makes it more interesting. You'll see more flops, but you still have that oomph to like knock people off that are just going to call, what have you got? 5-3, and I hit a 5 on the river, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, good suggestion there. Good suggestion. Certainly give pot limit a go. Perhaps that's your game overall. Thanks very much for that. I think that was Dave, and we got an email from Sir Whiffsabit, and I'll read this one, and you can answer it, Matt. How's that? Okay. So are you ready? Okay. He's asking, great show. Would like to ask your opinion on this question. A monkey, a giraffe, and a ring-tailed lemur are playing in a $50 tourney. Who would be your favourite to win? Now, there is some parameters here.
Okay.
He's saying, given that the giraffe could see everyone else's cards, but has no hands, the monkey has hands, but is preoccupied with the snacks on the table, and the ring-tailed lemur is playing loose aggressive. Any help would be much appreciated.
Okay, so whips a bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good question. It's probably one of my favourite questions ever of all time. See, for me, the giraffe actually doesn't see everyone's hands because obviously that high altitude, you're looking down. The lemur's obviously very low to the table, might pick up. But for me, the monkey's the only one, as far as I'm aware, that has opposable thumbs. So no one's going to be able to pick up their cards apart from the monkey, even though he might then eat them or put them up himself. So I'm probably going to go with the ring-tailed lemur just because I think he just sounds like the only one that's likely to be able to get involved in the game. But thanks ever so much for your email. Do feel free, if there's anybody else has any question involving animals that can't play poker and who I'd like to put my money on, do keep them coming in.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, I'm just going to ask, I realised we shortchanged Dougie before the previous break.
Oh, yeah.
He asked a question about the betting patterns you look for when playing online. And in fact, we ran out of time because we went to a break.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you were going to give him your input. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll just throw that back at you.
Okay, yeah. My input are, now, first of all, I think it is important to decide whether the players you're playing against, if you could take a quick look, the first thing I would say is if you want to put emphasis in this thing, you've got to do one thing, and that is get some input into whether these guys are multi-tabling or not. But it does affect their betting patterns. So, for example, if one player is taking his time and then betting, that means something very different if he's on loads of tables or if he's not, because that could just mean that he's skipping from one table to another. So that's the first thing you need to ascertain. For those of them that aren't, then you can look at the timing aspect. So the ones that you know aren't multi-tabling, then you might want to take a look at how quickly they react to what you do. Yeah, and that is a certain betting pattern. Certainly the one thing where I find that helps a lot, and I have used it in the past, is almost certainly I can tell by the speed of their bets is usually in heads-up tournaments. So when you're playing in a heads-up tournament, i.e. one-to-one, and they take a certain amount of time, you can usually get, with certain players, what that means. So that's one thing. In terms of other betting patterns, obviously amounts is something. You know, if you see someone betting out and he gives you some information on the end that he had top pair, and you've seen what the kind of bets he's been making, then you need to make a note of that. All of a sudden, if he's starting to raise bigger than what he was before, or a larger amount, then you say, well, perhaps there's something fishy about this. Is he not top pair, or is it something else? And you've got to decide what that something else is. So, and that's really the thing, is trying to ascertain what a bet means to what kind of holding. So once you can do that, then you've got to try and marry the two together. And then when he does something different to that, then you've got to look at and say, okay, well, what else could that have meant? It obviously doesn't mean top pair, but does it mean a set, for example? It could mean even better, of course. Does it mean a set? Does it mean two pair? Does it mean that he's on a flush draw? Does it mean he's got a nothing at all, or does it mean he's got two overcards? You have to make that decision, and you have to decide what that means. But they're the things to watch out for.
Yeah, and I think it also proves a point that says, you know, be aware that if there are people paying attention to the speed that you react, try and have, it's a bit like a lot of people that play live, they try and have a very sort of mundane way of they take it and they make a decision whether they're folding, raising, calling, whatever they're doing, is try and actually build into your game a set period of time before you make a move. So if anyone's trying to see you and goes, he's very fast, he's very slow in a given situation, try and give yourself a specific time. I'm always going to take 5 seconds to do so-and-so. But, you know, just in case anyone's watching you. Obviously, as well as looking for tells in others, you're trying to make sure that you're not giving any information out.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that. We've got an email from H2O Stevens, and he's saying, hi, great show as usual. Can you give me some advice? I'm about to play a 4th round rounders tourney, excellent stuff, where top 5 go through to the final table. Okay, how should I play? I'm normally an aggressive player at the beginning when the blinds are low and hope to flop a monster then play tight to mix things up and towards a bubble, then aggressive towards the end to steal blinds. What do you guys recommend? As I really want to make it through this round and get into the money on the final table, or should I just sit back and only play with aces, kings, ace, king, ace, queen, and be patient? What do you guys recommend? Many thanks. Well, I'll give you my input because otherwise Matt will steal it. And that is, my input is, I think you should just play your game, to be perfectly frank. And the reason I say that is twofold. One, because it's the game you're most comfortable with. And when you play your most comfortable game, you won't sort of second guess yourself as to what you should do. So that's my view, and I'll stick with that for the moment. I'll say that that's my really optimum strategy, is just play your game. You've obviously done very well to get to that stage. If you can just do the same thing again, then there's no reason why you shouldn't go through. What do you think?
Yeah, well, you've got through to the 4th round, so you're clearly not outclassed. You're not, your technique's working. Try not to think about the money, just think about getting through those players and getting onto that final table. Do your thing, and good luck, and let us know how it goes as well. We always like to hear how you get on once we've spoken to you.
Do let us know. Do let us know, indeed. And the other thing I'd say is don't change your game. That's the most important thing. Don't change your game. Well, we're going to have to take a short break now, so keep those emails rolling in, and we'll see you right after this. So, welcome back to Poker Night Live for our final session with myself, Mark Prince Charles Banin, and alongside me is the legendary, the one and only, Matt Broughton.
After the game I just showed, I don't think we can get away with this big intro anymore.
Okay, there has been.
There has been. The guy who
once was.
Yeah, the chip movement graph that went like that.
No, it went sort of...
It was like, please don't... No. Yeah, I'm not going to take any screenshots of that one when I get home.
No. Okay, let me tell you how you can get in contact with the show. Before I do that, though, I will just tell you about the question I posed earlier, so if you've still got time to answer it. And the question is, in what poker card game can you actually have 3 pairs? And in fact, I'll give you a little cue. You can actually have up to 6 pairs. There, how's that? So what poker game can you actually have up to 6 pairs? Okay, now the way you can answer that is by texting us. Text number is, don't forget, it's a new number, 84222, and you text the word poker, plus your answer, or plus any points of view you'd like to air, and myself and Matt will read it out. Don't forget to put your name at the bottom. As well as that, you can email the show, poker@pokernightlive.co.uk. There it is. And the poker games I'm referring to are not some obscure game, and not some obscure game that I'm asking you to find out for me. This game is played around fairly often. It's not a casino-based game in as much that I'm not talking about one of these, 3-card pokers or something like that. I'm talking about a game that poker players would play amongst themselves with no dealer. Okay, so to speak. So not against the dealer. Okay, so hopefully you'll get some answers for us later. In the meantime, let me read some of the stuff that we've got so far. The first one is from Double Top, and is a regular player on our show. Thanks for your email, Double Top. And he's saying, hi Mark, I played your 7-8 in the other night in the Casper Beat the Presenter. Yes, I was there, I saw it. And yes, Mark, I played your 7-8 in honour of you. That's what I said. I thought a lot of these players actually play it because of me.
I just want to tell you the good
when
news.
When I'm watching, yeah, they do it.
God bless you.
Good lad. And if you remember, I hit the 8 on the river to win the pot. Yes, I do remember. I've won many big pots with your 7-8, but if I don't hit, I'll not pay too much with the cards. So yeah, that's fair enough, and that's the whole thing about it. You know, you can decide. It does create the advantage of that. Is look, how many times have we sat in the small blind or the big blind, had some rubbishy little hand that's hit a magical flop, and we've got paid nicely on it. And you think to yourself, well, if I wasn't in the big blind, I'd never have got involved with that hand. I never got paid off. So you're playing off situations, and if you play 7-8 round the back, then you're also playing off another situation where it gives you an opportunity to bluff. And you know, when you do have a hand like that, you do need to bluff. Let's make no mistake about it. So it's not for the faint-hearted. So thanks very much for that, Double Top. Do you want to do one?
Yeah, for sure. Well, actually, I'm going to pick up this whole... we had earlier on the discussion about what the maximum number of outs is. And I've been far too busy watching poker to really get into the whole math of this, but my colleague has got 16 pages full of figures. So we came down to this whole question that was, what's the maximum number of outs you can have? We've had a couple in. I'm just going to pick up one here. This comes from Sam Jackson,
okay,
who says, right, he's going to paint a picture for us. Pocket twos versus Jack 10 of hearts. The flop is the 9 of hearts, the 8 of hearts, and the 9 of clubs. The turn is 6 of clubs.
Okay, up and down straight flush draw.
You now have 9 outs to the flush, an extra 6 outs for the straight, 6 outs for the overpair, and also you can hit a 6 or an 8 to cancel his 2 outs.
Yeah, to counterfeit him, in fact.
Yeah, and make your jack high good. So that's another 4 outs. So he makes it 25 outs. Now I'd like to hand you over to my colleague Mark, who's going to take you through his thinking. Do you concur with Sam Jackson's output?
He's actually right, apart from one thing at the very end. He said that hitting the 6 or 8 is another 4 outs. It's actually another 5 outs, according to the thing you've got, for the simple reason that you've also got another heart which you didn't account for. You can use the 8. You've got 3 8s, not 2 8s, because one of those 8 of hearts is on there, so it doesn't make the flush. So you haven't made it twice. So in effect, you've got 5 outs at the end, which does make it 26 outs. So apart from that, yeah, he's spot on, in fact, on that one. But that is basing it on the turn, not on the flop. So that is basing it on the turn where there's another board card. So, yeah, if you're playing it on the turn, then as far as I can work out, 26 outs is the most. So thanks very much for that, Sam.
Well, it's nice to have that resolved. I know that I think it's nice to have that resolved, and I'm sure you do too, because I have no idea what that was all about.
Well, we've also got one from, I'm going to do this one from John, and he's saying, hi, I can't believe I'm actually working this out. Okay, pair of 3s against 8 9, 8 9 of hearts, flop is 6 7 7 with 2 hearts on there. And anyways, without going into all the maths that he's put here, max number of outs, 24. Okay, and 24 on the flop is actually correct. That is the biggest. I did say 21, but I wasn't working out the paired board when I worked it out earlier. So, yep, 24 is the right one. And thanks very much for that. That was from John. So that's a good one. We've also got another one while it's on this subject from Hugh. And this one's a really nice one. So I've left it to the end of the 3 because he's actually put it very nicely. Perhaps you'd like to take us through that.
Okay. So this is from Hugh. Thanks very much again, Hugh. This is, good evening, guys. On the maximum number of outs you can have on the flop, I've worked it out to 24 on the flop, 36 on the river. Okay, the plot thickens. For example, mental, you have King, Queen in spades versus 2-2, neither of which are spades. The flop is 10 of diamonds, 10 of spades, jack of spades. So your outs, 9 or ace to make a straight, 8 outs there. King or queen to make a higher 2 pair, 6 outs. Jack for the board to counterfeit his 2 pair and you out kick him, 3 outs. Any spade for a flush, 9 spades minus the ace and 7 outs. 7 outs.
Yep.
Grand total of 24. So that's,
perfect,
we're all coming around to this same example. Excluding the opponent's 22 from the unseen cards, there's 45 unseen cards. Odds to hit on turn are 53%. Odds to hit on turn or river are 79%. However, that's just a hit and out. It doesn't take into account, it doesn't take account of his possible outdraws for the house. However, if the turn comes, for example, 7 diamonds, I hope you're enjoying this, you now have 2 more outs for the river. The 7 of hearts, 7 clubs, and 7 of spades is already counted in the flushing cards. This gives you 26 outs. The odds to hit of one of them on the river, given the 44 unseen cards, excluding the opponent's whole cards, are 59%. No doubt this knowledge will prove vital to me in tomorrow's multi-table qualifier and will probably guarantee me victory. Bring it on, guys, bring it on. So I think we'd like to close this subject now because my head's starting to hurt and my eyes are twitching. But I think that's about as extensive a concluding finale email, but beautifully put by Hugh.
Yeah, it was very nice. I thought he did it very well. So 24 outs on the flop and 26 outs on the turn. There's your answer. Thanks very much for that, Hugh, and all those that responded to that. Time we had a little look at our multi-table tournaments because I think we're close to the finale.
Indeed. Yeah, they must be the big boys battling out for the big chips. Wow, 4, down to our last 4.
Now, just to give you a quick reminder that tomorrow is going to be the Poker Bowl qualifier. It's a second out of 6, I believe, or 5. Anyway, there's lots of information on our website. Have a look, www.pokernightlive.co.uk. And that's going to start at 8 o'clock tomorrow. We'll be covering it here on Poker Night Live at 10. Of course, when they all go through to a semi-final, the winners go through to a semi-final, they play out, and the winners of that end up in the final here in the studio at a date to be decided. So that's going to be lots of fun and should be very exciting. So I remember watching the last one, it was pretty good stuff. So be interesting to see how it plays out. And of course, we did actually have our presenter Poker Bowl final.
Yes, indeed. I saw that recently. How long ago did that actually occur?
That was August, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it took part in August and they showed it around September time. So, yeah. Let me just polish my fingernails. Hold on.
I take it one was pleased with one's result.
Well, you know, it's not every day you get to be presenter champion, is it?
Exactly. Did you get a hat or a trophy or anything?
Well, I got something. It wasn't no trophy, though. Yeah, I got sort of...
vaguely acknowledged.
Yeah, only vaguely acknowledged, that's the thing. What can I do?
Oh, well.
It was a lot of fun, though. It was good fun. Nick was being his entertaining self. Always good playing with Nick. Always you can rely on him to come out with a wise one.
Yes, unlike Nick, that, isn't it? He's normally so quiet.
Yeah.
Well, here we are. Look, these guys are all in the money. The top 10 were paid, as I recall. And these boys, the very minimum that one of our players here we view before us is going to take $121 home for their $10 buy-in. $10 buy-in, should I say?
Yeah.
Third, 160. Second, 256. And top prize tonight, drum roll please, $384.
Yeah, very nice indeed. Just for those of you wondering what happened to some of those players that we saw earlier, some of the regulars and what have you, I'll read a couple of them out. Stanter's a regular here on the show. He finished in 16th place. Carter BTD, 15th place. Petronius, 14. Nairo, which we had a little look at earlier, 13th. Moving up, Ray Cool finished in 10th with 19.20. Just missing the final table was Mash with $38.40. Fernando came in with 8th, 51.20. He was the first one out on this table. Ryman came out 7th with 64. Remember Ryman from earlier. Rich 78, who was a chip leader at one point, ended up 6th with 83. Ken Jude was 5th with 102, and that's where we have it so far.
Indeed, Ian Bunsky's picked up a rather nice little hand here. Top pair with a decent kicker.
Yeah, we've got a couple of regulars here, haven't we, Matt? We've got SS Snakey, who we've always seen, and Miss Votavova, who apparently I'm the only one that actually gets anywhere close to the correct pronunciation.
Votavova, well, sadly, your beautiful eloquence has indeed seen her off. That was what you only needed to say her word, and like witchcraft, she was banished from said tournament in third.
I'm sorry, Miss V.
But so, you know, $120 for a $10 buy-in.
Yeah, it's a nice return, isn't it?
You
Lovely
can't really
return.
compare. That's the thing. It's a bit like the conversation I said earlier on about, you know, only having, you know, played 8 tournaments and only cashed in one of them. The beauty of it is that with the tournaments, you know the payouts are going to be decent, so you only need to win that amount to actually get yourself back in a positive. So you've got to view it as, well, you've just taken $121. That's given you, I mean, you've got 12 more tournaments to buy in there for free, in inverted commas.
Yeah.
And again, if you manage to pick up in one of those, you just see that's the way you've got to accept, if you're going to be playing lots of tournaments, you've got to expect that that's the variance.
Well, 11, really, 11 tournaments.
Yeah, I lied. Yeah, as soon as I said it, I saw the glint in your eye. But you know what I'm saying. You know, you realise that depending on how you want to view your bankroll, that gives you a lot of entries into tournaments where, again, if you cash in that, you see the way that people build up their bankroll. But you do have to accept that with tournaments, you're fighting against, you know, hundreds of people, and there's not as many opportunities. In a cash game, every single hand is an opportunity to make profit, whereas here in the tournaments, you've got to get it through to that final table. Yeah,
absolutely. So there's 11 tournament buy-ins for you, Miss Votavova.
Queen, is going to get any money here? Just double the blind. Oh, thinking.
Yeah, well, he wants some action here, doesn't he? And Bunsky can't give it. Well, he does give it to him. Bunsky, that wasn't worth it. I know you're getting pot odds of, what, 3-1, but not with a 4-10. That's just nasty.
Very speculative.
Nasty, yeah. It's got no prospects whatsoever. Not suited. At least make it suited if you're going to call it something like that. But not 4-10. What a horrible hand. It's as bad as 7-2. You're never going to feel that comfortable with it, with what you hit there. Unless you hit 10-10 or something. 4-4.
10-10-4. I think he was hoping for.
Even you even hit 4-4 on a board like that, you're never even happy, are you? Because 4-4 Queen or 4-4 Jack, and the other guy, all he needs, if he's got a Jack in his hand, to hit another Jack, and that's the end of your hand. So one little slip up there from Bunsky. Don't mind being speculative, but you know, I'd rather be speculative with 2-3 or something, or 4-2 than 10-4.
Yeah, 10-4 is not going to give you, as you say, what are you hoping for? You're hoping to hit yourself trips or a 2-pair, or, you know, it's not like you're going to pick up some interesting straight variation there.
Yeah, and he's lucky that it didn't come 10 high, wasn't he?
Absolutely,
that could have lost him a lot of chips.
In an evening where outs have been so dominant, you know, that's what what are you expecting to draw to?
So we're watching the final of our multi-table tournament. We've been following it in dribs and drabs throughout the course of the evening, dipping in and out. And we can see that there are now 3 players remaining. Next out will get $160. Second will get $256. And as Matt pointed out earlier, $384 for first. So very nice indeed. All fairly equal-ish on chips. not a great deal of difference, apart from Snakey's a little bit of an underdog here. But you never know. All it takes is one hand, and he's got an up and down straight draw, has Snakey, and he's betting it. And he pushes Bunsky off it. And now they are pretty much even.
Yep, and 2,000, 4,000 in the blinds, so decent amount to steal as well. Ace Queen. Well, if a queen comes down here, it depends if BW allows Bunsky in. Bunsky might feel... well, Bunsky kind of got off double lightly there, because had a queen come down, some serious damage could have been done. But then again, BW doing the right thing, because who knows what hideous outdraws can occur, even when you're dominated.
I've got an interesting email from Kim. I won't do it now, but it's a question that we have quite a lot of. And every time we get it, I still have to think about it. He's basically asking about folding kings pre-flop. So we'll discuss that, and that's always an interesting email to discuss.
Yeah, laying down hands. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Well, Snakey.
Do you know, I don't think we've actually had an answer, correct answer, to my question.
Yes, indeed. We're looking for a game, apparently, where you can have up to 6 pairs, I understand.
Yeah.
Good Lord. What manner of witchcraft be that? I'm as excited about the answer as I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure we don't forget that, because that was kind of bug a lot of people. If we manage to go off air and we've not remembered to come back, that could be quite annoying. These boys just throwing chips back and forth. Big 3-5 versus 3-king.
If we have any of our Swedish listeners out there, I think they might well know the answer, because this is a game I quite often see some of the Scandinavian players playing.
Oh, you're just throwing little clues out there, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get them at it.
Little breadcrumbs.
They have no reason to be playing this more than anyone else, but I just think they just like the action. And there's nothing that's really associated with Sweden or any part of Scandinavia. So 7-8. Well, he's bet. What will Snakey do here with his bottom pair? He's probably thinking, oh, that Mark's watching me, what shall I do? No, you've done the right thing, Snakey, you've done the right thing. It is bottom pair. And whilst I might be watching you, you don't want to commit your life on that hand.
Snakey's just started to leak a little chips there. It's down to just under 40,000.
I quite actually, do you enjoy playing three-way?
Yeah, I play. The thing is, because of historically, I've played with friends where I go around the house and we end up saying, let's have a few games, and there's just the three of us sitting there sort of playing. So ends up being a huge volume of the games I've ever played. But we tend to do, the thing I always find is when we play in that scenario, we start off with small amount of chips and small blinds, and of course it's quite an unrealistic way to play, because if you ever do get down to three-way, you've probably got a fair few chips in play and there's big blinds going on, so the pressure's hard to sort of simulate correctly in that. But I do generally like short-handed games rather than big 10-seater ring games. Well, you know what? I've realised I can't say that after having watched the game I played tonight, but I do prefer to get a bit more inventive with hands, you know, rather than wait for the big boys to come in.
I must admit I enjoy that as well, playing three-handed. I don't play a lot of it, mind you, but when I have got involved, it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, the great thing, obviously, this online poker revolution. There's so much variety in the tournaments you can play. I quite enjoyed. I was playing a whole bunch of in my little session of tournaments, playing in these two-table sit and goes, freeze outs.
Yeah, they're good fun too.
And you know, they're good. And again, you've got more people involved, so there's more money in. So it's not.
He took a bit of a hand there. He had 8-3 Bunsky, and he didn't take my advice. Played his 8-3 from the small blind, and hit two pair, and the other guy hit top pair.
Oh.
So he got paid off BWFC there. But yeah, there's lots of games out there, isn't there? There's a good variety of games. I was saying, you know, I haven't played recently very much because I've been busy in other areas, but I was playing Badoogie.
Badoogie?
Yeah, have you played that?
No.
No, that's a good game. It's basically ace to 4 low.
Oh, okay.
But you can't have any duplicates in there, and they've got to be of mixed suits. And it's a draw game.
Cool.
So very fun, a lot of fun. I like those draw games. I must admit, those low games can be a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, I'm finding online as well. I did. I said this before. I did an interview with Greg Raymer, who's a previous World Series poker champion, and asking him what games he likes to play online, and he was saying basically the only games I really tend to play are the split, the high-low, because that's where you find the worst players. You know, everyone has such great knowledge of Hold'em now because of the amount of books and televised stuff. You know, just if you want to sit here for a night and watch 4 hours of this, you just learn so much about the way in which hands could be played and the trouble people get into. So when he actually comes to play seriously online, the very last game he's going to play is Hold'em. And I'm finding it more in some of the smaller live games I go to around London. Lots of dealer's choice, you know, the emergence of people getting a little bit, not necessarily sick of it, but there's no shortage of finding a Hold'em game, whereas if you do actually want to play a few more different games, there's some interesting variations, including, of course, Mark's Mystery 6-pair game. And I'm intrigued.
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated, that game, but certainly looks like a fun game. I've never played it myself, but I'm starting to play more and more variations of poker nowadays. I find it helps your overall game, you know, whether it's Hold'em or anything else, whatever your main game is. Seems to add things into it, certainly.
Yeah, well, many of the top players, they all kind of, well, you see them, obviously, they have the bankroll to sustain it, but you see familiar faces that you know from seeing all the televised Hold'em stuff always in the World Series, in the Omaha and the 7-card stud, mixing it up. Very much from the old days, in the old days before the internet, and you turn up at the card room and it's, you're going to play what's there, what game there are spaces in, what's running. These kids today with their lobbies, they're just spoilt, aren't they?
They are. Totally.
You don't know you're born, Sonny, he said, feeling very old. Wow. 7-2 if Bunsky fancies a bit of this because it's suited. No, Snakey's going to make it too expensive. I can't imagine Bunsky's going to go for this unless he thinks it's a still, but that would be a re-raise. Gets down. Out of it.
Well, Bunsky's got the lead at the moment, but this can go any way. Only takes one double up from BWFC, and he's back to level terms with Snakey.
And this could
or
be
close to it.
This could be an interesting push here. There's this some draw for Bunsky. Hearts are all kind of scary. 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen is just coming with a minimum bet.
And look at that, and he's hit his straight as well. 8, 9, 10.
The flush is going to keep them slow down here,
Queen,
I would imagine.
King. Well, yeah. Lucky for Bunsky that extra heart came on the end there.
Yeah, because I'm sure he would have bet far more aggressively without the fear of that. Bunsky's picked up another decent hand though. Yep,
pretty nice.
Don't mind that on the button three-handed, not by a long way.
Yeah, and 3-4. Snakey doesn't want to get involved, and I don't really blame him too much. Might take a look under certain
It's funny, isn't it? You notice this when we watch these. You go through a period of time where actually no one's getting a single hand, and it's very much about people moving their chips, and then all of a sudden people are actually picking up, you know, decent playable hands. Very hard to keep track. You know, we've spoken quite a bit tonight about betting patterns and, you know, trying to get reads from people, and that's the problem, is you've got to keep playing regardless of the hands you're getting. Very hard to know when people are just making moves from position and when they're actually starting to get these hands through, but you seem to get these bursts where all of a sudden there's lots of action, and then people just go back to swapping blinds again for a while. Hits the middle pair.
BWFC takes it.
And we're at 2,000, 4,000. I think we're probably due for a hike up in that. I think we've been here for a little while. It's going to start hurting.
We've been here for a little while on the 2-4?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember. So Bunsky has 60,000, BWFC with 40, Snakey with 91. Still can go any way. Snakey's got a slight advantage at the moment. Oh, and he's hitting up and down straight draw, and Bunsky's hit a bit of that as well. And he's saying, you know what, I think I've got the best hand, and oh, look at that. And we will see another 9 up here. Well, he says, how much do you like it now? Snakey's saying to him.
Snakey's starting to just forge ahead in the chips there. Bunsky's probably...
Could he have milked him there, do you think? I think Snakey would have milked him there. He had a strong hand, didn't he?
I think it was just...
Was there 3 clubs on there?
Yeah, I think the thing is... Well, no, I don't think he was... I didn't get the feel that bet was to sort of protect his hand. I think he just... I think sometimes the betting just doesn't work for you, because I find myself in that position. You think,
we've lost him. BWFC, he's gone, yeah.
$160 there.
Okay,
but
so...
I find sometimes when you make those big moves, you can get called sometimes, and it's very hard to know whether to make it small enough to let people in or just to go for it. You do risk, well, not that it's a risk, but you know, you push people away that might have paid you off some more. But sometimes you're going to get it, sometimes you protect your hand. I find it very hard to know exactly how to maximise that, because it's not necessarily, I find, down to your actions, it's down to what hand they've got and how much they like it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the amount you make is kind of not necessarily, if it's big enough that they like it, there's probably no ceiling to how much that amount needs to be. They're going to call it for 30,000, they're probably going to call it for 100,000. They either like it enough to get involved or they're going to lay it down.
Well, he did like it, didn't he? He obviously liked something about it because the flop was 10-10-8.
Yep.
So he's got to ask him, well, he's either got a 10 or an 8. The likelihood he's got an 8 and not a 10, because he probably wouldn't check raise him if he had, you know, you'd let him try and milk him some more. So he's probably got the 8. So because you think he's got the 8, it means that you won't get that much out of him. So little bets only for me on that one.
Yeah.
But of course another 8 comes down and he's had it. Or a 9 in fact, because that would have given him a straight 2. A bigger one.
And the blinds have indeed gone up, so we were right at the edge of that level. We've gone up to 3,000, 6,000. They're pretty evenly matched.
Yeah, very close here.
Fair move. Going to push 7-10 off.
Yeah, well, he gets the big blind there for 6,000.
Look at them, they couldn't be closer, could they?
Oh.
The chips, wowee. Well, just a little...
Now, as long as there's not a king and queen on the flop, we'd be okay. Flop will come down king, queen, 3, and we could see all sorts of trouble.
Well, I don't think Bunsky is going to go away. That's a nice flop for the queens.
Yeah. Look what he's burnt all those chips on. He's burnt 40,000 chips on king, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, snaky. Right, you know, move, but wrong time. Once he got re-raised, and especially a minimum re-raise, I mean, he's telling you he's got a big hand, hasn't he? You know, he's telling you that he's really confident with his hand.
Yeah, yeah, because if you don't want to shut people out, well, you really think that you can't be beat here.
Yeah, if he had something like ace-king, you know he's going to go all in. You know, or a small pair. So that's got to be a big hand. Well, Jack-8, he's now saying, I think I'm ahead with my 8. And he got his answer, yes he is. He's clawed back a little bit of that loss. Oh, look at this. Yeah, can't do anything with the 3-8.
Pocket threes under the gun. He's left himself with 1,680, just in case he needs the cab fare home if he loses this.
Yeah.
Don't entirely understand why you'd...
But he's at home. Why would he need the cab fare?
He might be playing around a friend's house who has internet connection because his broadband's down. I don't know. But it seems a bit strange if you're such a strong move to give yourself a little bit of money. Chip in a chair, I guess, you know. Be the hero. Come back from nothing. Snaky's hit the 6. Not too much for Bunsky to get excited about. Surprised Snaky didn't make a little tickle there.
Good, great answer from Tirade. Thanks very much for that, Tirade. I'll let you know what that is. That would be a fun game. But we should...
God, well, if any diamonds want to come down on the flop here, we could see some fireworks.
Yeah, couldn't we see?
Snaky probably going to go for this. Wow, and there are the diamonds which now Bunsky doesn't want to see. He just wants to see kings. Wow.
Well, that's a bit of a turnaround, isn't it?
Big swing, and that's the whole point, isn't it? These blinds at these levels, as soon as, you know, you are waiting for the point where both players get something they want to invest in. And then it all swings around again. King 5, King 8. Bunsky burning from his previous hand.
Now, it depends whether Snaky wants to start putting him under pressure. He is. He's starting to put him under pressure. I think he really should be making it a bit more pressurised.
Yeah.
Because just in case he's got half a hand, he wants to make him pay. If he's going to pay.
Wow. And if Bunsky chooses to make a move here, it's going to get hurt. It just tries to limp in and get lucky, but I can't see Snaky doing that.
No, he's going to take his 6. He'll say thanks for that, and that's the right move for me.
Yep.
No point to trying to play a flop and that sort of stuff.
Oh, and he gets rewarded with another ace-king.
Yeah. I think, now this is where his mistake. I think if he read the situation here, he could have actually put a minimum raise, and Bunsky, thinking, I've had enough of this, I'm going to re-raise. Yeah. So there you don't mind a re-raise. You want to be in a race. You don't mind being in a race if you're going to see all 5 cards. But I think he might have done it there because you've done it to him a few times, Snakey. I think that was a lost opportunity.
Yeah, you can work on it, can't you? It's another element where if you've got away with a certain couple of hands,
yeah,
you've got that momentum where you think, actually, I might be able to just... Because you're sitting there, when somebody's doing that too, you're thinking, this guy can't be getting hand after hand after hand. And of course, when you are, then it's perfect, because you make another move, someone's like, do you know what? Let's find out if you've got it or not. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, welcome to my trap. You know, and then you go into the race well ahead. Yeah,
well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? Because had he have done that, then Bunsky probably would have thought, you know what, I think I've got enough to put him off this if he hasn't got a hand. And he might have said, OK, give him some space to hang himself, and he possibly could have done.
Got the 9.
Trip 9s, well, it's all changed back again. Now Bunsky's right back in it.
That's the thing, isn't it? He just had enough that as you just rightly said, is that for him to go all in, it's still a scary amount. It can still change the course of the game.
They might have felt that, you know, OK, I'm going to go all in because he's left me some space there. Can't call with a 10-2. And Snakey is thinking, oh, I'm so close.
Yeah, and look, they're very much back to close. And now all of a sudden these hands come out again. If Snakey wants to try and end it here, he's got to kind of just reel back and go back into patient mode.
Yeah, and he decided to go all in.
This is great.
And he's called him.
Wow.
Wow, and he's a queen or a jack, and he hits.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh, no one's got a spade.
And 16 grand, 16.5 grand for Snakey, is about to get walloped with a blind.
Yeah.
The big blind comes his way.
I think that was Snakey a little bit on tilt from letting him back in.
A bit impatient. I think he was all ready to win the tournament. Suddenly he finds he's got an opponent, and now he just wants to see the end of this. And Bunsky's going to take his time here. As soon as he gets a hand he likes, he's going to just push that pressure down. Ace-9. Oh, he's got the 9. He's got the 3-of-a-kind 9s. I think this could be it. There we go.
Wow.
Wow,
takes it. Well, ace-9 again. Ace-9 a couple of tens in a row, wasn't it?
That's amazing stuff, and it's great, isn't it? It's good to say it's one of the few opportunities we have to watch some heads-up players at the end of that multi-table. Lots of chips, clearly decent players that have got through a couple of hundred people. There you go, in the space of a couple of key hands there, just swapped up, swap.
Yeah.
Bang, Snakey got a bit impatient, and all of a sudden Bunsky's back in there. So well done. $384 for Bunsk.
Nice, that'll buy him a few tournament entries, won't it?
11 or more.
At least 11, yeah, absolutely. Right, we've got some emails here, and this one is from Tirade. And Tirade has given us an answer for our poker question. And he says, just to remind you viewers, if you want to know what the poker question was, it was, in which game can you have anything up to 6 pairs? So Tirade has come with an answer. Hey, Mark and Matt. The game of cards with 6 pairs is strip poker with 3 females.
Boom.
Smiley face, loads of laughs. Great show, guys. Very nice indeed. Nice. That made me chuckle when I read that one. Very nice indeed. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's probably better than the actual eventual answer that we've dragged out for 4 hours, but you haven't won just quite yet.
We've got one from Andy, and Andy is saying, hey guys, great show as usual. Got a little question. I've read some of Daniel Negreanu's blog, and there he mentions that he sometimes plays games totally in the dark without looking at his card. I was planning on doing that myself, maybe dropping down to the microliths and putting a bit of a tape over my screen so I don't see my card and play a whole sit and go. Do you think there's a value in doing this? Can I learn anything from playing such a game? Do you think? Well, I think we've all done it at some point. I certainly have.
Yeah.
Have you done it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're necessarily going to learn anything, and especially as you're saying you're going to drop down to the micro limits, because the sort of game you're going to get at the 10 cent, 20 cents game isn't, to my mind, a very fair representation of people playing where they care about it. One of the key places, funny enough, actually, Nick was talking about this last night. I tuned in and saw something. He was saying, if you get into a heads-up situation and you're clearly outclassed, that's the place to play dark, because you take all the skill out of it and it just becomes a kind of roll of the dice. What you can learn from it, I don't really know. I'm kind of pushed to really think of any real positive. I think maybe obviously it brings your focus, we spoke about it earlier, about watching Banin patterns and seeing how it goes, but I mean, it definitely changes your focus. I mean, one thing that I've learned from it, I did it a long, long time ago, more or less when I first started, funny enough,
And one of the things that I learned from it was it helps me tune in a little bit more to reading situations. But it is hard because you do have to lift up that tape off the screen to see what you've got when it comes down to your turn, you know, just in case you're folding a pair of aces or something. So, you know, you do have to look at it every now and again. But my point is that it can help you tune in a little bit, and I wouldn't spend too much money doing it. I'm not sure if micro limits is the way to go. Certainly I would do it for perhaps sit and goes or you know, or something like that. But try and look at situations rather than, you know, covering up your screen. That would be another way. Try and identify situations and try and realise that when people put out a small bet, it usually means weakness, and try and ascertain what those bets mean. That's really the key behind it all.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good idea. Maybe just get involved in a sit and go. You know exactly what you're likely to lose there. Make the investment, do the experiment, and do get back in touch with us and let us know, because it'd be interesting to hear if you do learn anything, what your conclusions are.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks very much for that. We've got one from Farce, who says the answer is some questioned answers here. We've got one from Farce, who says the answer is Pai Gao. I'm afraid it's not. That's a casino-based game, so not quite. Getting close though. Smoothcut says 7-card stud. I'm afraid not. I'm afraid with 7-card stud you still play your best 5-card hand. Sam says AK Luma says Raz. No, I'm afraid not. Raz is a low ball game, so doesn't count, and you're still playing 5 cards in Raz, so can't have more than in fact in pairs in Raz is no good anyway. So
no, exactly, because that's exactly what you're trying not to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So unlucky guys. So do you want to do one or two? Say
yes. Let me chuck this one at you. Actually, yeah, absolutely. So this is from Pompey Fan. Would like to tell you about my fantastic hand earlier. So it's a good beat story. We like this. I was dealt ace clubs and king clubs. Flop was Queen diamonds, 10 clubs, Jack clubs. Turn was the Queen of hearts. Having won quite a bit earlier, I decided to go all in, as this was the first time I've been drawing to a royal flush. Was called by a house, queens full of jacks, not surprising with that. River was a queen of clubs, making my first royal flush. I've never had one. I'm very jealous in all my years. Took down a pot of $269. So, well, how many royal flushes have you seen in your time, sir?
I think I've seen 2.
2, they are. So, 2-0 to Mark again.
2.
So,
yeah, 2 is, one was at Alison's house, funny enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I made it. As well, so that was pretty good.
Smugness. We don't encourage smugness in poker, people. But we'll let Mark.
We do allow it though with presenter champions.
Oh God, yes, yes, my lord. Anyway,
so we've got one from Steve F. You want to do that one?
Yes, certainly, sir. Allow me to plonk this email upon you. Right, okay. Hi, guys. Great show as always. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining in. Never emailed you before. Welcome to the show. But I'm interested to hear your opinions on making plays from the cutoff rather than the button, as you'd perhaps normally expect. And the cutoff, just forgive me if you know this, but this is the position before the button. I've started to raise up from this position more as it's less obvious than when raising from the button position, which can sometimes result in resistance from the more stubborn blinds who think they're being stolen. Quite rightly so. Also, I've recently read an article from a top pro who is actually advocating the merits of limping on the button rather than raising. It can cause confusion in the blinds, perhaps even giving the impression you're slow playing a monster hand. More often than not, you can bet out on any flop if checked to you, particularly if there's an ace showing. I spoke about this earlier as well. And take it down. This way you can also conserve chips that you may have previously used to raise from the button. Just thought I'd run this by you guys for your thoughts and whether it's something you've implemented in tournament play and with what degree of success. So that's from Steve F. Thanks very much. Mark, thanks very much. Mark, thoughts?
Yeah. Thoughts? Yeah, I believe that the thing I like about what you've done there is you've looked at alternatives, and that's the key really in poker. It's trying to do something out of the ordinary, trying to do something different to what everyone else is doing. And now whether you choose to do it from the cutoff or from early position or from mid position, I don't mind. Of course, you've got more chance of getting away from it with the cutoff, and you've got even more chance of getting away with it from the button. But the main thing is to try different things and see how it works for your game. Now, what I like about it is that you're right. It does give you generally good position in the tournament because the only one you're really worried about is the button calling.
Yeah.
Normally, when I make a raise, the last one I want to call is anyone that I don't have position on.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. So that does give you an advantage. And in poker, you have two advantages. One isn't very well publicised, but one advantage is playing very early, i.e. the first position, one is playing the last position. First position doesn't give you that much fame and fortune unless you're making moves on the turn, and unless the board is in your favour, then you can make moves in that direction. We've talked about it once or twice earlier. There were situations where people could have done it from early position. However, most of the time you want to try and do it from late position. Certainly if you're a new player or an intermediate player, you want to try and do it from position, and the cut-off is a good way to start off. And then perhaps you want to try other things as well, maybe the position before the cut-off. So yeah, I like your thought process. I like the fact that you're trying something new, and for me, as long as you keep trying something new and realise what you're getting back, whether you're getting good stuff, bad stuff, whether it works in this situation, that situation, then you won't go too far wrong in poker. That's what it's all about, trying to pick up and learn. There's only so much you can learn from books, so you trying new stuff and seeing what works and what doesn't is a great way to learn.
Yeah, and I think that an interesting point there is also, we always talk about the power of position, but position isn't just about where you're sitting in the sequence. You can create position for yourself, and it reflects something I've been starting to do a lot more, which is in that cut-off position, or even the position prior to that, is that if you make an aggressive move, you can actually take out the next two guys, or the button, as Mark says, it's the last person you want to call. But if you knock those guys out, suddenly you've created position for yourself, because for every continuing round, you are now effectively as good as the button, because you're always going to be last. So that's another beauty of doing this, is, as you say, you kind of empty out the guys behind you, and all of a sudden it's coming around to you, and you're there in the last position. The other thing you say about limping in on the button, and some of the pros advocating this, the truth is, any move you make that kind of confuses people. A bit earlier on in my rather mundane game, there was one point where I had a decent hand and I just doubled the blind. And it wasn't for any other reason than I just want to throw people off with my betting. And if that might be that you're dealt aces and you limp in on the button, or you're the big blind with a big hand and you throw out a strange bet, you just kind of always give your opponents too much credit. Imagine they really are focusing on you and paying attention to what you do. So any move, be it a limp in on the button, be it a kind of a strange raise with a ludicrous amount of chips that come up in various different colours on your screen, anything you does that stops your opponents from drawing a bead on you and working out what you're doing is always a good thing in my mind. Unless, of course, you're trying to set a trap. And it's a real key thing when you talk about bluffing. There's a great quote somewhere that's saying, a bluff should be misleading but not baffling. So if I'm trying to bluff you, I want to sell a story to you. I want to make you think that I've limped in because I'm weak and you raise me and then I've got you. If you just make a crazy big bet, or you kind of check when you shouldn't do, then no one really knows what you're trying to do. Your bluff is just like people are scratching their heads. A bluff should sell a story to people that gets them to do what you want them to do. And I think things like that are a good way of getting around it. But it's an interesting point.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, thanks very much for that. That was a message from Steve, and keep those emails rolling in future, Steve. Always like to hear from our new viewers, so hope you're enjoying the show so far. Another email from a different Steve, I guess. This one is from Steve, as I said, and his question is, he just played a tournament and kept getting small pocket pairs. How would you play them later on in a tournament, sevens and under? I kept folding them but ran out of chips and came 7th out of 150. Cheers. I certainly wouldn't keep folding them, that's the thing, because later on you've got to make use of these hands, and pocket pairs are made hands. They're better than, a pair of fours is better than ace king, so at the end of the day, it is important to be the better with these hands. And certainly, if you're playing later on in a tournament, then it's important to actually realise that you need a bigger hand to call with than you do to raise with, to be the initial raiser. So that's the thing to remember. It does depend what kind of blind structure. There's a lack of information, so it's very difficult for me to say. But there are times that later on in a tournament, you do need to be steel blinds. And if you can read situations correctly, then you'll know when that time is. There'll be a point where they're only a certain part of your stack. Usually we say around 7 times onwards. So if you've got 7 times a big blind or less, then this is the time you want to start increasing your stack. Anywhere really between 7 and 10 is where you want to start looking to steel blinds, depending on how big the blinds are in relation to your stack. Sometimes it might even be worth re-raising with these hands. It really depends. If you think you can get away with a re-raise, and you think there's a good chance that the guy will fold, then you might want to re-raise with these hands. So you certainly don't want to call, though. That's the one thing you don't want to do. If you've got a pair of 6s, 5s, 4s, it's not good to call, because there's only one way you're going to win, and that is if you happen to keep your hand standing up when you're playing something like ace king or ace queen, or you're just praying that he hasn't got an overpair, so you don't really want to be in that situation. So calling is not an option. Raising or folding is the option, or even re-raising. But if you're going to re-raise, remember, a re-raise is only good if you've got a certain amount of fold equity. There's no point re-raising if the guy is committed to this hand and you can see that, because that is just the same as calling. It's exactly the same thing. So you want to make sure that when you do re-raise, you make sure you look at the guy's chip stack and you say, has he got enough chips to fold? If the answer is yes, then go ahead and re-raise. Yeah? So that's the thing. But remember, it does depend on the player. If the player is a very tight player and you know that he's going to call you because he's got a minimum of ace-king suited, but more than likely an overpair to you, then maybe that's not such a good move. So you do have to define it against your player. And you also have to define it against what position in the tournament you're in. If you're getting close to the money, that might be a better move than when you're sort of further away from the money. So there's my view on it. What do you think of that?
No, I go with a lot of that. I mean, for me, well, it reflects a lot of what Mark said. You've got two options, really, is that if the players present you with the opportunity to take the initiative with the betting, i.e. if you're in a late position and no one's really made any moves, then you can make it kind of, you know, take your pairs aggressively and try and make a move with them. And if you meet resistance, then you make your own decisions. Because also we don't know, are these players where, you know, every time you make a move, they'll call you. These are the sort of guys that are going to take you down. But I think, as Mark says, you don't want to call it. So if somebody bets before you, you don't want to be calling that. But if people have, like, limped in before you, then you take them and run and push it, because there's a good chance you've got the best of it. And if somebody wants to call you, who knows what action comes on the flop. And if you're in late position, you've still got their actions to base your next move upon. The other option is to actually still get involved when they allow you to do that cheaply and late, but don't be so aggressive with it. So if you've got a pair of fours, limp, limp, fold, 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 comes down to you. See if you can sneak in there, and basically you really are just weaseling in there to see if you can hit yourself a set, and then you're in late position. If somebody makes a move, take Mr. Banin, bang, re-raise it, see where you are. But I think folding them is just wasting it. So we had a guy earlier on talking about folding jacks. You've got to look for opportunities. If you're late in the tournament, the blinds are going to be kicking you, if there's antes as well, etc., etc. And you've got to see a pair of twos, pair of threes, pair of sevens, what it is. It's an opportunity to make chips. A lot of stuff has to go in your way. Either the pattern of play needs to go in your favour, or the cards that come down. But it's certainly, at the very worst, an opportunity to make more of it. So I think you need to get a bit more involved, especially late in the tournament. Early in the tournament, maybe you don't want to try those things. You want to protect yourself. But late in the tournament, again, at some point, you're going to have to make moves, because nobody survives through a tournament. No one gets to the end of a tournament having just played solid poker, because that just relies on getting ace-king, aces, kings. And that, sadly, doesn't happen to anybody that I'm aware of.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, and good email. We've got one from Kim. I mentioned this one earlier. This is always an interesting question. It always gets me thinking every time, even though it's we hear it so often. He's saying, Kim's saying, or she's saying, simple question: can it be right to move? Can it be a right move to fold kings pre-flop when there's been a raise, a re-raise, and maybe a re-re-raise, and you suspect that you must be up against aces? I never lay down kings, and it has cost me dear on more than one occasion. Does it make a difference if it's a cash game or a tourney? Many thanks. For me, it does make a difference if it is a cash game or a tourney. I don't think that I would lay it down ever, personally, unless there was a very, very, very good reason behind it. There will have to be multiple re-raises for me to do that. I'm not sure whether three's enough. It'll probably be enough, possibly, but it does depend on what I feel these players are like. If I feel that they're likely to re-raise with aces, or I feel they're likely to re-raise with queens or jacks or tens. If they're new players, then I will probably not throw down my kings. If they're experienced players, then I might well throw them down. It depends if I feel that they could hold aces. Generally speaking, I wouldn't throw them down. I heard Daniel Negreanu once threw them down a few months back in a tournament, and he was convinced the guy had aces. In fact, he only had queens. So there you go. And he says, but, you know, so everyone makes that mistake every now and again, but I generally wouldn't.
I think in a cash game, I would never throw away. I can't think of many scenarios. If it was the final table of the main event of the World Series, and this guy's gone in, and this guy's all in, and this guy's re-raised and gone in, I might be tempted. If it was like a difference between $1 million for each place, I might dump it and let these guys fight and see if somebody knocks themselves out. But again, going back to what we said a bit earlier on, if you're in a tournament, you're in it to win, and I can't believe that throwing kings away is ever really considered a winning move.
No.
Unless you really are just in it for the money and that difference in position. But what if these guys, what if no one gets knocked out, they all stay in it, and you've missed the opportunity to play kings and do something with it? So eye on the prize, I think, is the story there.
Yeah, thanks very much for that, Matt. Last one from is Double Top, and he's saying, hi Mark, the answer is, and he's the one that got it right, Chinese poker. Absolutely. And he says, sorry, but I did Google the answer. Can I give the overview of the game? I'm afraid not. We don't have time, I'm afraid. But it's basically a 13-card game, 2 backs of 5 and 1 bank of 3, and you have to play against 3 other players. Anyway, that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. It's good night from me.
And it's good night from him.
So good night, and we'll see you another time.